I see our faces. I hear our voices. And my cat's bell. I can hear the cat's bell.
Say something. Maybe my levels are weird.
Something.
Oh,
Maybe something else.
Maybe. What'd you say you were at in Audacity?
Yeah, it does sound a little overblown on the YouTube, but in Audacity, I'm at about -20.
Okay. And the game that you're playing with, you said was in Mint, right?
Yeah.
And there's no other external.
There is one on the microphone itself, but when I was messing with it earlier, you said it didn't do anything. So there, it's turned all the way down.
Now say something again.
Something. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let me crank it all the way the other way. Maybe it's a directional thing. No, but that should be the gain on the mic itself. Has that changed anything? It doesn't look like it's changed anything in Audacity.
I feel like it's less, but I don't know, man. I think I think I'm just pretending at this point.
Yeah, I guess I need a new mic. I can switch to the other mic and just bring in the adapter that I built and set it up here, and I'll just have to ask
That's
people.
okay. I think it'll be okay.
I meant for next show. I wasn't gonna rush out and do it right this second.
Oh, I got you. So do this real quick. Just press record on Audacity, and I don't know, say a whole sentence.
Here is a whole sentence. My lunch actually ended up being a burrito because I make, weekly burritos.
Weekly burritos. So.
And why is my image not move? Oh, because I paused it instead of just muting it. That's why.
All right, now look. Stop your Audacity and look at it. Look at those peaks. Do they just is there like a line that goes across those peaks?
I can barely see the peaks. They're so tiny. I'm zooming in. There's a line in the middle, but there's supposed to be a line in the middle.
No, I mean so look at the top where the audio peaks. Look at the peaks themselves. Are they even with each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's clipping. And so it's not.
Oh, I can grab the other mic. I mean, screw and a USB, and that's it.
I mean, I won't say no.
It'll take an extra few minutes, and we'll be starting a little late, but it's just the two of us, so.
It's going to be I guess the idea is it's going to be a trick either way, because we'll either have to deal with a lot of gain and clipping in one, or we'll have to deal with a lot of background noise in the other. And it might be easier to chill out the gain and the clipping than it would be to take random noises out.
Well, give me 60 seconds and we'll test and see.
All right. Look at this. Right. Live show gets all kinds of goodies today.
Well, there's only two of us. We got to fill up content somehow.
No, we could just be done in 20 minutes. Well, I guess I can actually tell people what's going on. I forget. Let's announce it. Yay! There's Telegram. There's Discord. And there's Twitter.
Okay, I'm probably gonna have to completely kill Audacity because of this. So.
Oh, I mean, go ahead. I don't need you to record any of this. Somehow, you still have something coming through.
Yeah, it automatically switched to a different mic, obviously.
Oh God, stop that. Mute your mic. Oh God, please.
Did that mute?
Oh, please. No.
No? Oh. I only have so many hands.
Click the Discord mute button.
Hold on. Gosh.
Oh, wow. Oh, that one. I remember that one. Watch, you know what's going to be funny is that you're going to have the same exact problem and it was something that you've done in software. You checked a box, I think, that you didn't mean to check. Clayton says, more noise, please. Yeah, crunchy was the right description for that. I don't know how to explain that other than crunchy. Yeah. All right. Well, while Joe's doing that, I'm going to get show notes up and go share that screen. So those of you in the live stream, I'm curious now, do
Test.
oh, that's way better, but
Uno, dos, tres.
you're still a little loud, so bring that down just
Hold on.
a hair.
Yeah, because I haven't adjusted the input on it. It's at 100. So how's that?
That's better. I like that.
And I have no idea what it's listening to now in Audacity. It looks like it's listening to the right mic because when I'm fine. So yeah, muting that works.
So you slap it to mute it?
It's got a touch sensor, right? I just have to get close to that touch sensor and it turns on or off.
Oh, wow.
So I have to be a little bit careful with, and I want to check and see. I do like the fact that it's got the big red light on it, and
yeah,
because that lets me know, when I'm live and when I'm not. So let me test out my hotkey.
Hey, so while he's testing that on the live stream,
My hotkey works on it, but it doesn't adjust the light.
Do y'all care if the show notes are full screen mostly like it has been, or should I leave it in the little box? There's really not a whole lot to do, but since there's only 3 of us, the box will be pretty big. So I imagine it'll be legible. Honestly, I'll just crank up the page size, everything we look at. That would probably work.
Test.
Are you good now? I saw your
Okay.
lips moving a second ago. It was muted.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I need to adjust my audios up a little bit more. Okay, because I am sitting at that negative 18, 17 range. Most of the time I'm in the negative 30 to negative 24 range. It's just when I talk a little bit louder that it goes up to that negative 18 range.
Okay.
And that's usually not what I go for in Audacity.
I would say don't mess with it, but you could probably bring it up 5 if you wanted. But again,
Okay,
Discord
how's my sound there?
That sounds okay.
Let me
Get
try one
excited.
more.
Get excited.
One
Oh,
more really loud talk. Okay, yeah. At the
too
loud
much.
talk, I'm now at -6. So I need to bring it back down just a little.
No,
Okay.
you'd be okay. You'd be
Loud,
all right.
loud, loud. Oh yeah. Okay. No. Here at 80 is good. I can bring it down more.
This is the behind the scenes, everybody.
This is us testing while live. You know,
Yeah. Well, of
testing in
course.
production.
When where else do you test?
Because you know my opinion on testing in production. If you listen to any of my other shows,
That it's mandatory?
yes, mandatorily stupid.
No way. You have to do it. It's required. I
That's
mean,
what some
honestly,
developers think.
testing in production is basically a
A
measure of your
time-honored
confidence.
tradition.
It's a measure of your confidence, man. Like
It's a measure.
if you're not confident enough to deploy in production, then I mean, what are you even doing?
If you're not smart enough to test in, a test environment, then what are you doing?
No, you can
What the
test.
heck was that?
Share screen. You can test,
Oh.
but you can't. You can only test on your own machine. You can't have like a test environment or anything like that, like on a server that would replicate what the server is. That's what it means to deploy to production, man. You just got to be confident.
How do I sound now? About
Oh,
the
you sound
same?
pretty good.
Okay.
You're good.
All right. How about, can you hear me snapping my finger over here?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah. It's gonna pick up like all the noise in the room, but as long as the main sound sounds good, that won't be bad.
Yeah. Just be diligent with that mute button, and it'll make the edit real easy.
Well, I would say that if there were like 5 of us here, but with the 2 of us, I expect I'm gonna spend a lot of time not muted.
Probably. I mean, and that's fine. I mean, you're gonna catch it if you're gonna catch it. But
Yeah.
yeah. If I go long, smack that mute button.
Mm.
There we go. All right, I'm gonna go press cool on the stream, and one last thing. I
And
have
then we
to
gotta
get
do
a SSH. SSH. There it is.
we gotta
543.
start the recording and do our time sync and
See, and
it'll
it's a good
only
thing
be
we're
15
keeping.
minutes
It's a good
late.
thing we're keeping the show to an hour, because we're gonna be good. It's still gonna be normal show time.
I like my Samsung Meteor. I wonder what happened with it.
Honestly, you probably just needed to unplug it, and plug it back in.
I restart this machine all the time.
No, the physical plug.
With the USB?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just messing around.
It's
But it could
it's
work.
silly.
It could work. I don't know. It could.
Well, I'll keep an eye out for good deals on the Samsung, and then maybe I'll find something else that I like.
Buy another Samsung, just the Q2U. It's a dynamic. I'm telling you,
Is it USB?
it'll make you so much better. You won't have to worry about the sounds in your room, like at all. At
Q2.
all. You
Hold
can have
on.
your kids
That,
traipsing
that
through.
that's an Amazon special, I assume.
Nope. You can get it on sweetwater.com. You can get it
Samsung
on
Q2U. I'm just looking it up.
Z Sounds. You can get it
It
on
looks so
BH
generic.
Photo. Yeah. But what does the look of your mic have to do with anything?
Look at how awesome this one is.
Okay, why don't you just leave that one there?
Oh, I'm just giving you a hard time, man.
And then don't use it though.
No, see, I like the look of this one. Don't get me wrong; it just really does pick up everything in the
Yeah.
dang room, and
No, that's what I'm
it's a
saying.
little
Leave it
annoying.
on the mount, and then just like hide the dynamic next to you.
No, I'll if I get the dynamic, I'll just use the dynamic. I mean, seriously.
I'm telling you, it's like the same price as the Meteor, but it's way, way better as far as I mean, editing sound quality like this. It's way, way better. I mean,
It's USB and XLR.
it can be both. So if you want to go XLR, you can. But if you don't, then don't. All right, I'll be right back.
All right, I'll try to be entertaining for a second. I really won't, but okay. I'm gonna look this Samsung Q2U. Let's see what the used market looks like for this thing. $70? No. $62.99. Yep. $62.99 is the lowest price I see. So, more than I want to spend right this second. I will keep an eye out, though. So how did the hurricane go?
What'd you call me?
How did the hurricane go?
Hurricane. That's Mike.
I know. I know
Oh,
it's not you. We
Is
live like
Mike-
500 miles from a coast.
Yeah, no. What? Why are you asking me a question that Mike would know the answer to?
Well, I was wondering if you had any information.
Oh no, he didn't say anything. I mean, I assume he's good.
You assume he's not dead yet.
I mean, yeah. Yeah. Mike, if you're listening, press 2 for I'm okay. Or blink twice.
Just
Either or.
join the show real quick. We won't.
Yeah,
mind.
just pop in. No big deal.
Yeah, just jump on in there, and then we'll yell at you for not having done any pie projects during a hurricane.
I know, man.
Should have built a weather station.
How in the world can you not do pie projects during a hurricane? Like, what are you doing with your life? Come on.
Right?
Come on. All right, getting things ready. I'm finally to the point now where I could be mistaken for being ready.
It would be a mistake to make that mistake, though.
Oh, it would. It absolutely would.
Let's see what the YouTube is saying about you today.
Hey, cool. What kind of can? Whose can? Spalius? Dale, I would shoot for -12 for your peaks on a dynamic mic without what you were talking about, the cloud lifter or that other one. The thing that adds a bunch of gain to your thing. I mean, you don't need it if you're going to be doing post anyway. I mean, I haven't needed it. The only thing that actually I need to do is play around a little bit with a equalizer to chill out my S's a little bit. My sibilances are very sharp. And some of it's the mic, but because the mic that you have, Dale, it misses some of the mid range, but it really accentuates the low and the high range, and that high range accentuation really plays with my sibilance as well.
Okay, bueno, Nobert.
Yeah, that's good, Dale. I mean, 18 is fine. I mean, we were talking about it yesterday, day before. I'm at about 3 o'clock on my Focusrite, and you've got the same one. So I mean, 3 o'clock is good. Actually, you know what?
Yeah,
3 o'clock is good.
I like my overall to stay in that -18 range, but then when I get loud, it should be peaking at -6. Anything higher than that, and that's a problem.
But that's on a condenser. So when you get, if you play that Q2U on an XLR, over XLR without any kind of additional gain, you're going to be peaking right about where I'm peaking, which is same as Dale, 18, 16, something like that.
Yeah, today I'm peaking at about -18.
Yeah.
It's not jumping up to -6.
Those condenser mics can go into the positive, which, I mean, it doesn't work that way.
It shouldn't work that way.
Yeah, it shouldn't, but it can. And that's probably that 48 volt that will just throw you off the moon, man. Dan says testing in production is the only way to be sure, and that's absolutely true. That happened with Linux User Space.
Eventually, your test environment, your QA environment, it's going to have slight variations, but you want to keep those as minimal as possible.
Yeah.
From production, slight variations from production. And so, yeah, when you do finally get in production, there are going to be variances that weren't accounted for in QA and testing, but it's minimized. So, yeah, you're not just throwing code into production and saying, I wonder if this is going to work.
Yeah, true, I guess. As long as you're thoughtful about it, right? You can live on the edge.
Not in my field.
I didn't hear you say anything. So, These are ATH M50Xs, the Bluetooth versions. Joe, what are your headphones?
Oh, these are the 99 Neos.
What brand?
Neo.
Oh, Neo. Got it.
I think that's the brand. The 99 Neos are actually really good headphones, and they always sound good. Sometimes I need to power them a little bit
Meze.
more. Yeah,
Meze Audio.
Meze Audio. And I sometimes I'll need to hook them up to an amp just to give them that little bit more power, especially if I want some more real sound. And then if I want bass, I definitely have to use an equalizer of some sort because these are studio headphones.
Yeah. Yeah, these I got the ones that I have. I bought specifically because you didn't have to add any gain to them. The Bluetooth was like a super extra. Oh, there it is, purple.
Well,
Uh,
the MTX, the ATHs, I know that's the Bluetooth model, but a lot of the non-Bluetooth model, the nice thing about them is they sound really good when they're not powered.
yeah,
But
exactly.
you
Exactly.
can power them, and they also sound really good. They can take that extra throughput without going to crap.
Yep, yep. I have them plugged into the Focus right now, and so it can give quite a bit more than I don't know, like a laptop audio jack or a phone audio jack or something like that.
Yeah, I don't
And
have any of the Bluetooth models, but I do have for the M50 line. I have working a pair of blacks and a pair of whites,
yeah,
and then I've got a bunch of the 40s, the 30s, and a pair of the 20s.
yeah. Oh, Spally, there you go. He says he's got the M40Xs. Yeah, on an audio interface, it seems like they get uncomfortably loud before they distort. So
Yeah.
I don't know how much more gain I would need to give to them. That's just too much. Like it hurts. It hurts. So nah. It definitely has enough.
Well, I grew up around artillery, so
Oh yeah, so you could use the extra gain, huh?
yeah.
22nd of August. I think that's it. I actually had the notes ready to go today, and yet we're still running long because fun
Right,
times,
it's
fun times.
almost 2:30 and we
We
haven't even
can't do it.
started yet.
We
Dude,
just can't. This is basically Wanderings Part 1, and then we're going to have a Wanderings Part 2.
yeah, and
Yeah.
this is why I laughed when you said we were going to get it done in an hour.
Okay, so the show itself, once we say welcome to mintCast, maybe an hour-ish, because there's just two of us, but
I got a lot of talkie there.
I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to try. I'm going to try for an hour, but
Okay,
you guys might be
okay.
stuck with us for a little longer.
I'll try not to jump in too much in the news and the
No, that's when you should. I don't really have any wanderings
security
today.
update. Okay.
And then the security update is just going to be just I
Man,
mean, it's going
I'm
to be
looking
just
at
gonna
my
be-
bi-weekly wanderings and that is short.
For you, are you kidding me? It's normally like 4 pages long, and today
like
it's half a page.
half
I
a
don't know.
page. What
How did
the
that even happen?
hell?
I could have sworn I was looking through it on my phone and it looked way longer than that, but I think it's just because the phone is squanched. Is that the word? Squanched?
I did nothing.
No, that's good because neither did I, and that's
I
going to make for a
do have
short
a
show.
couple of I do have a couple of things to add there. I'll do it off the cuff.
Well, Spally says we get this stuff figured out. Let me ask you, what kind of audio interface do you have? And then we'll get this show started. Joe, you ready?
Well, do you want me to do the 3, 2, 1 record bit?
Of course.
Okay. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. 3, 2, 1, record.
Nice. What is it
Yeah,
with all of
dude.
us having the Scarlett Solo 3rd Gen? That's what Dale has. That's what I have. That's what Spalius has. It's a good audio
It's a
interface,
budget.
man.
It's a good budget audio interface. Would
I
be
mean,
my
for
guess.
single input, it's one of the more expensive ones.
Dude, this mic is like really weird because when there's no sound, it actually sits at 0, not like the other one.
Wow, so it's got like rejection on it or
I
something?
guess it's got some kind of rejection at the low end because it will drop out and sit at 0, and I could never get that with the Samsung. And I never
Crazy.
really tried to either, but yeah.
Yeah, this mic sits at about -80 when nothing's going on, which is actually kind of quiet for today. It's normally about 76. So I don't know why it's quieter today than any other day.
It does pick up small sounds, but yeah, I don't know if you can hear my dog snoring.
No, I think Discord might be cutting that out, but we'll see in the in post.
Well, I'm not seeing the numbers go up for the dog snoring, but I can hear the dog snoring.
Cool. All right, you ready then?
All right. 3, 2, 1, 0.
Oh, wait. Yeah, forgot about that part. Do that again.
All right. 3, 2, 1, 0.
Zero.
Close
All right.
enough. Good enough for government work.
All right. Yeah. Okay, here goes intro music. Welcome to mintCast, the podcast by the Linux Mint community for all users of Linux.
Very overworked, but I'm Joe.
And just done baking lots of projects, I'm Leo. And this is episode 368. And this is episode 368.5. Recorded on Sunday, the 22nd. 22nd of August. I have written in the notes 22nd of August. Whoops. Livestream information is at mintcast.org/livestream. If you see something you'd like to hear about, tell us. Send us email at mintcast@mintcast.org. Join us live on YouTube. Post at the mintcast subreddit. Chat with us on Telegram, Discord, Facebook, or post directly at mintcast.org. First up in the news, OpenSSH takes another step. Firefox and Thunderbird match now. Lots of new releases and AV1 headed for kernel support. In security, you were this close to having all the games on Steam. Then in our wanderings, Joe started Joe's Plumbing Service, and I've been boring.
Yep, I've turned into a plumber.
In our intersection, pies, and more pies. And finally, the feedback and a couple of suggestions. So at the top of the news, OpenSSH. We talked about OpenSSH, Joe, I don't know, it was like months, maybe even years ago. I remember bringing it up where OpenSSH is going to drop SCP in favor of SFTP. So, I mean, on an Ubuntu box...
Wasn't that already done like a couple of years ago? Like SCP was declared to be insecure, so everybody was supposed to be switching to SFTP, and basically all the commands are the same.
Yes. Yeah, actually, yeah. So we did a whole show on that.
Yeah.
Or at least we talked about it a lot in a specific episode. But okay, so back then it was the OpenSSH group saying, all right, y'all, SCP is dead. Stop using it. So nobody stopped using it, obviously, because they didn't make anybody do anything. And this won't either. So OpenSSH 8.7 is released with experimental SFTP support for SCP. So what that means is you can add the -S option to SCP to enable SFTP mode. All right, so they're still letting you use SCP, but if you use an extra option, it'll behave like SFTP and give you the extra security.
I kind of figured what they were going to do, and I thought we had talked about it at the time as well, is that they were just going to alias SCP to SFTP so that when you typed SCP because you're old and that's what you've been doing for the last forever, the right thing happens.
Yep, that's the deal. So they still give you an out, which is SCP-O, which is the original mode that SCP ran at in the first place. So if you've got really old software that does not support the SFTP, essentially the ability to deal with SFTP style transfers, then you're going to have to use that big O option. But eventually, it's just going to be gone. And I'm going to guess it'll probably take another year or two for that to actually be the case. So maybe
I'll
open SSH 9?
I'll be honest. I still type SCP just out of habit.
I can't believe you, Joe. So insecure. You're going to be the object of our security
Honest,
update one of
Michael,
these days.
I seriously thought that they had aliased that from SCP to SFTP, but I haven't thought about it in a while either.
It looks like OpenSSH 8.7 might. I didn't test it, so I don't know for sure, but why would you need the O option if it wasn't by default then?
Exactly. Why do you need the
Yeah.
two modes?
Right. There's a SFTP mode and an SCP mode. Why would you need both if one
And
of
I
them
don't think
has to
that's
be a default?
I don't think that's attack O. I think that's attack 0.
I don't remember. Either way. No, I'm pretty sure it's O. Let me see. Let's take a look.
Capital
Let's see.
O?
I saw it on it was in the
If
release
that was a
notes.
copy and paste, then
No, I typed it. Now I gotta
well,
find
it's not
it.
a 0.
Oh, here it is.
It's
Here it
not a
is.
0. I can look. It's a capital O.
Oh, okay. I was about to throw it in the terminal and find out. That's a O, and that says yeah, it's definitely an O. Okay, so yeah, capital O for
Okay, but yeah, why would you
original.
need TAC S for SFTP and then TAC O for original? What does adding neither one do?
Well, I guess one. Oh, you know what? It removes the ambiguity for sure. So it's good for that. But I just want to say that you wouldn't need O. But anyway, it seems like the release notes make it sound like SCP is still SCP with the S option. You can make it behave like SFTP, or you can just use SFTP. If you want to be unambiguous about it, you'll add the dash big O. That's what it seems like. But either way, one step closer to having SCP gone forever. It's deprecated. It's been deprecated. But, it's still out there. So what are you gonna do, right? If you're managing like a bunch of routers and things that still need SCP, don't support SFTP, how do you handle that? I think my Edge router doesn't support SFTP; it's SCP only. So you just got to go back out and get an old version of SSH.
Probably.
Keep Debian 11 around for 5 years, and hope
There
you're.
should be some kind of like add-on or something that you can install in order to keep using SCP on older devices.
Yeah, because it sounded like in the release notes that they were going to get rid of the original mode option eventually. And I mean,
that kind of has to be the plan. If it's insecure and they're not planning on making it secure or unable to make it secure, they're eventually going to get rid of it.
Right.
I mean, it's
It was
Telnet.
Yeah, exactly. SCP is just broken. There's no real way to fix it without rewriting it. And if you're rewriting it, why wouldn't you just rewrite SFTP? So yeah, that's why it's deprecated and why it's going away. But yeah, it's still going to be there. I mean, just like FTP, we just had browsers finally drop all of the basic FTP support in your browser. Now you have to have an extension for it. And that's a good thing. FTP is no, it needs to go away. We have SFTP.
Well, FTP has been known to be insecure for a lot longer than SCP, and it's still around.
Right, yeah, exactly, which tells me that SCP is going to be around for, another decade before we really, truly get rid of it.
Yeah.
But speaking of browsers, Firefox 91 and its first point release is out. So I dig this because they add some total cookie protection, which is a weird name, but for clearing cookies that prevents hidden data leaks and makes it easy for users to understand which websites are storing local information. So just more visibility into your privacy, really. And then the HTTPS first policy. So the browser will always attempt HTTPS first, regardless of what you type, unless you explicitly say HTTP in that, which is kind of nice. And then a contrast mode for folks that need extra visibility on Mac, which is kind of nice. Accessibility is always, always, always nice. And this is my favorite now. So Firefox now does catch-up paints for almost all user interactions, enabling a 10 to 20% improvement in response time. So Mozilla is just going to feel like it's going to be faster all of the time.
I probably won't know.
Spalia says Mozilla doesn't know what they want. They removed PWAs. And so I remember covering that on mintCast a while back. And they removed it because it was broken. And they didn't have the manpower to fix it. I mean, honestly, I probably would have done the same thing. If you're not going to focus on it, if it's not a focus, and I get the argument that it should have been a focus, but if it's not going to be a focus and it's half broken half the time anyway, I mean, you're just going to get tons of the opposite complaint, which is PWAs are broken in Firefox, and that'll be a refrain. So I don't know, better to strip it out. But you have options, like in Mint, you have the web apps option. And you can use Firefox in that way, which is how I do Plex. I don't think there's an actual Plex client for Linux. There's a Plex AMP client, which I also use. But if you just want Plex, you have to do it in a browser. And I'll use web apps to launch a Firefox instance to do essentially a PWA of Plex and of Nextcloud. So if you're on Mint, you have a workaround for it, and them removing PWAs doesn't mean anything to me, which is I guess that's an advantage of using Peppermint or Mint in general, is that you have that. I mean, the code's out there. I wouldn't say easy. I don't know what kind of effort it would take to put that into another distribution, but the code's there, and it can be used in any distribution if you're willing to compile it yourself, or just use a Mint or Peppermint derivative, and it'll be there. So yeah, no, I agree. I like PWAs. They tend to be really, really effective at what they do, because I don't want a whole browser most of the time to do stuff. It's nice to press a button and just have it come up, especially since we have every app now is. What is the Chromium backend for things like Discord and Slack and Element? What is that called? Anyway, the Chromium backend thing. Anyway, moving on, Thunderbird 91. So they jumped from 78 to 91, and I'm still tapping my foot wondering whether or not we're ever going to get that in Ubuntu 2004, which means Linux Mint 20. Would be nice.
How many people actually use Thunderbird, though?
Electron. Norbert's got it. It was Electron I was talking about. And I do recently. It's so I've been using Geary, which integrates in. If you add like a Gmail account to Mint in the account section, and then you install Geary, your email's immediately there. So you can handle your email right then and there. And that is super convenient. But I've taken to using Thunderbird because I don't really have the option of Geary on Windows. So it's Thunderbird over there, Geary on Linux, but I'm starting to use a little bit of Thunderbird on Linux now as well, because, I mean, it's just as available. But now I'm wondering, after Thunderbird 91, which seems to have a much better onboarding wizard, so putting in accounts and things like that, much, much easier. I'm starting to wonder if I shouldn't just use Thunderbird everywhere, because, I mean, it's the same app, right? Kind of like Firefox, I get it everywhere. Either way, if you're using email, Thunderbird, go check it out. It's very, very nice. As far as Linux goes, you have to download the tarball and extract it out, and then just run Thunderbird from there. It doesn't seem like even Arch, by the way, does not have Thunderbird 91 in its repos just yet. So it seems like there's more happening in the background than just a quick, cool, just upgrade would lead you to believe. So that might be the reason why they went from 78 to 91, also to match Firefox. But yeah, there may be some big underlying changes that need to be sorted out before an upgrade is available. Worked fine on Windows. Anyway, Dale says, I started using it again because I reviewed it a couple months ago and never removed it. Oh, there's a Proton Mail. But I wouldn't feel right about the Proton Mail thing. I really wouldn't. Because the whole point of Proton is that it's always encrypted, and if it's sitting in your Thunderbird box, then there's another point of decryption that I don't want. Not that anybody's going to just run off with your laptop, though I guess that could happen. It's just not likely, but I don't know. I keep my tinfoil hat on all the time, man. Decrypt it as few possible times as possible. Yeah, I English good sometimes. All right, next up is Elementary OS 6. Yay! So I've been waiting for this one for a long time because I think it's the main competitor to Mint. Because of its base, obviously, it's 2004 Ubuntu. And the fact that it's geared more toward users and less toward people wanting to do all kinds of weird things with it. I mean, Linux Mint is a desktop first. I think Ubuntu is a desktop second or third or fourth, right? Because they've got Juju, they've got Snaps, they've got the Ubuntu server, they've got a lot of things. Their hands are in a lot of cookie jars. But Linux Mint is desktop first. Elementary OS is one single desktop first. So I really feel like Elementary OS, along with Pop OS, is the main competitor. Those two are the main competitors to Linux Mint. So I've been keeping my eye on this one. And, I remember when there was a bunch of fervor about Linux Mint and then blocking the installation of snaps. You know what I didn't hear a bunch of fervor about? Elementary OS blocking the ability to add PPAs and install debs easily. Like, that has always been the case since Elementary OS 5. And I mean, probably before that, but I didn't pay attention to it before then. And Elementary OS 6 continues on with the same blocks. I mean, obviously, in Elementary OS 6, it's just one command to fix all those things, to fix each individual thing. Same with Linux Mint. But I didn't hear anybody complain as much as they complained about Linux Mint not having snaps by default.
Well, Elementary isn't as popular as Linux Mint.
And that may be the case. But what's really funny is that while they're not getting flack about that, they're getting flack about what Daniel Foray calls foot guns. So installing PPAs or the ability to add PPAs to Elementary OS is a foot gun. And apparently this is a programming term to mean something to shoot you in the foot with, right? It's going to make your experience bad one day because you're being irresponsible with it, right? That's the whole idea of foot guns. And so removing them and not making them available, and I mean, obviously you can still fix it because it's Linux and you can do whatever you want to with it, but out of the box, it's not going to have these foot guns. And in my personal opinion, I think that's the right way to go about it. I mean, if your focus is people that don't necessarily want to get under the hood and tinker all the time, then of course, why would you add a bunch of features that would eventually break something or have the potential to break something and then just generate tons and tons and tons more support tickets about it? Right. So, I mean, I think it's the right play, but as with Linux Mint and stopping snaps, Elementary OS is getting a Twitter beating. I think that's the right word. A Twitter beating about not having this stuff in there. I don't think it's deserved, but it is pretty loud out there about all of this. One of the ones that I tend to agree with, though, is... Okay, so in Linux Mint, when you open up the store, it's not perfect, but when you search for things, you get the deb version and the Flatpak version, and it should be, the Flatpak version should be, it says Flatpak on it, so you know which one's which. There's an argument that, well, that's too difficult, because what is Flatpak even, if you don't know what it is already? So Elementary OS kind of goes the other way with this, where FlatHub, which is where Linux Mint and all the other distributions tend to get most of their Flatpaks from, is not enabled out of the box. So you go and search in Discord, you're just not going to find it. It's just not going to be available until you go and enable FlatHub. But if you do go enable FlatHub, it's still not available in the App Center, because the App Center is meant to be a curated space where if it was submitted directly for Elementary OS, it will show up. But if it was not, it will not show up in the store. And that's, again, meant to not foot gun you to death, right? I mean, it keeps people from installing software that may or may not look right, feel right, behave right, not crash, things like that. So I get it, but that's I think one of the big points that they are getting flack about. That I wouldn't say it's really deserved because it goes exactly with their design decision, but I mean, software availability I think is a thing that kills all Linux distributions if they don't have it, and this is it. They're hampering their software availability by not allowing it in the App Store, not making it super easy to enable it. I think you still have to go in the command line and do the Flatpak add thing. So either way, we talked about Elementary OS 6 and all of its newfangled stuff in the last episode, I think, because we were talking about its release. But today was really just about no foot guns. No foot guns for you. Yeah, Norbert is talking about the flat hubs not being set up by default.
So
Yeah,
Dale.
yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, right? But they're going with the Mac approach, and I don't think that's necessarily wrong. But in the short term, it's going to hurt them because people are. I mean, we're using Discord. If we installed Elementary OS and we wanted to go install Discord, think about the hoops that you're going to have to jump through. You can either go get the deb, which there is no way to handle double clicking on debs in Elementary OS because it's not part of the design. So you have to go install GDebi or Eddy, which is I mean, they announced that it was available, that you can go get Eddy now. It's a Flatpak now. But
Or you have to use dpackage from the command line?
yeah, so the solution is apt install the deb or use dpackage. And this is Discord we're talking about. Discord. It needs to be easy to have Discord, and I mean, really anything that's in FlatHub that is super popular. Spotify. I don't know if Spotify is in the App Center, but I'm gonna guess that it's not. I'm gonna guess they didn't get Spotify to package up Spotify just for Elementary OS because that's the bar you have to clear to get into the App Store. Your app has to be specifically packaged for the App Center in Elementary OS. Otherwise, it will not be available. And not only that,
it seems extremely limiting.
And not only that, it has to be the main actual dev doing it. So somebody else can't package Spotify and put it in the App Center. Spotify has to package Spotify and put it in the Elementary OS App Center. So, speaking of foot guns, I think this is one way that you're going to shoot yourself in the foot without having Discord, Spotify, these real popular apps that you can obviously see on FlatHub and Snapcraft.
Yeah,
it's going to hurt.
It adds to stability, but it takes away from usability. And yes, they can come back later when someone says, "Oh, my stuff broke," and they can say, "Oh, it's not my fault. You were adding things that weren't ever meant to be added to this OS."
Right.
But it's still really going to end up taking away from the user base.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways around it, and I think that's what a lot of people are going to do. But, I mean, no foot guns is real.
Yeah, but Elementary is not going to support those ways around it.
Well, nor should they. The Linux Mint doesn't support broken Flatpaks either. You can't go into the Linux Mint forum and be like, "Hey, Linux Mint, why is this your fault?" It's obviously not. So, but it's the perception of it, right?
Right.
If you're not going to take the time and try to debug it and go to the forums and talk to people and get it fixed and all this stuff, your impression is that Elementary OS sucks because the Flatpak doesn't work. So it's obvious why they do it. It's just, I mean, I can't find Discord. I can't find Spotify. That makes a big difference, I think. Anyway, a few releases. August is Linux Christmas, I think. Debian 11 is out. Elementary OS 6 is out. Manjaro 21.1 Pavo is out. Zorin OS 16 is out. Slackware is about to be out. And we're talking like a decade between Slackware 14 and 15.
Right.
Slackware 15 RC1 is out, which means that maybe September, maybe October. I'm excited for Slackware, for the pain it has caused me in my life. I got to do it again, so I can be like, no, I totally did Slackware this time. It was fine.
Is the Slackware dev still having problems? The guy that made it?
I don't think so. I think we're okay on that front.
Is he actually getting paid these days?
Right. Oh, you know what? Norbert has a really good idea. That's a good idea. I think they should have like a Twitter check That's the idea.
Yeah.
So Norbert says they could enable Flatpaks and have an elementary certified badge on apps that come from the elementary repo. That, I think, is the best of both worlds. You get to have FlatHub enabled by default, and then you get to have a check mark that says elementary OS supported or elementary OS verified or something like that, where, it's guaranteed to work because it was made for this platform, but also if you don't have a check, then it's not our fault. Yeah. Well, that might just be because of the beta, Dale. Dale was saying he's tried Slackware 15 beta and couldn't get Slack package to update stuff. Got a bunch of 404s. But yeah, it's probably just because not those particular repos weren't available at the time. So we'll see when the real release comes out. There's a good chance we'll probably be doing all of those on Linux user space. Slackware for sure. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but yeah, I want to do all of them. I just don't think we have enough episodes in a season to do all of them, so we'll have to wait on some of them. All right. Anyway, that'll do it for the news. We'll head down to the security update. And I totally forgot, AV1 support headed for Linux in the news. Whoops. But that's going to be good. There's not a lot of hardware out there that handles AV1 support right now. I know my video card supports it at a rudimentary level, but I have to get like a 6000 series AMD card for it to have AV1 support, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not going to really affect me, but it's nice that it's going into the kernel so early. That means that, so Kdenlive, which I have in the check this out section, 20.08 has the rudimentary support for GPU acceleration for the Melt program, which is what it uses to do rendering, which means that the next version of Kdenlive, or the next few versions, will really have that GPU support. Could take advantage of AV1 if that's what you're rendering into. But I'm just happy that I'll be able to use my video card to pump out MP4s because I do a lot of Kdenlive now. It'll be nice. But anyway, so actual security, which is what we're here for, my favorite. This is there's not really a whole lot going on that I saw, but I did see this one. So Valve paid out $7,500, I think was the dollar amount, on the HackerOne board, which is a website where companies will go and post bug bounties, and people will pick those up, fix them, and they'll get paid that bounty. So Valve posted one.
That seems like a low payout for this one.
Honestly, it kind of does. And this, the 7,500 was the upgraded number. So early on, when Valve figured out that there was a bug, they considered it moderate. So like CVS has a score of like 6, if you're familiar with that. But, not a big deal, not a little deal, just kind of a whatever. We'll fix it. It's on our radar. We'll totally work on it. But after they found out that people could actually use this particular bug, which was messing with the email field whenever you did a transaction, you could change the amount. So you were buying Steam funds. Say you bought $1 of Steam funds. You could change that dollar amount to whatever you wanted. I mean, literally, whatever you wanted. Yeah, no, seriously. In the proof of concept, they did 1,000. So they changed $1 into $1,000, and their Steam wallet had $1,000. So, I mean,
This should have paid out a lot more.
7,500? Yeah, I think so. Those of you watching on a video, I totally have been clicking links. Whoops. But yeah, so let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it was right here. So he had bricks amount 100. So it's very important that you have the amount 100 in the email itself. But yeah, you turn $1 into $100. This looks like $2,000 down here. But yeah, once Valve figured it out, they changed from moderate importance, so like CVS has a 5 or 6 or 7 maybe, up to 9 or 10. So yeah, critical. So Dr. Bricks was the responding hacker for that one. So enjoy that payout. That's a good payout. Not enough, but a good payout. I mean, it's That's a lot of people's 3, 4, 5, 6 months salary, depending on who you are. All right. Well, that was it for our security update. Real short. It's a shame that I didn't get in on this, so I could have bought every game on Steam. That would have been nice.
No, they'd
That
have
would
come
have been
back
nice.
at you. They'd
Yeah,
have found
probably.
out. And
Yep.
then
And they would
your
have taken
Steam
all
account
my
would have
games.
just been blocked. And
Yeah. And I've got years and years of games on that, man. I don't want to lose it.
Right. I would hate that.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, that'll do it for the security update. It's still not solidified in my brain that Biweekly Wanderings is after security because my brain said it's Linux Innards time now. But
Right.
we got some feedback to that effect, by the way. So we'll talk about that in the feedback section of the Switch. And I'm curious of other people's opinions too. Anyway, Joe, what have you done? What have you done? What have you done? You're a tradesman now.
Well, evidently, but basically, work has taken over my recent life. I had one more person on the second shift that had something come up and wasn't able to work for a while, so I've had to work several like doubles and on-call work, and also some of the projects that I've been leading at work had setbacks, and I've had to put in extra time to try to get them back on track. So there's been a lot of 14, 16-hour days at work, starting out at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then some of them sometimes 6 or 6:30, and then working until 9 o'clock sometimes, and then or getting off at 6 o'clock and then having to log back in at 9 o'clock to handle stuff. So I haven't been able to do a whole lot. A lot of the stuff that I have been working on is things I can do while working and on a meeting. I started the process of revamping my garage so that a lot of it is more usable because it was getting a little crowded and a little messy, and lots more got boxed up and put into storage, and I'm working on getting everything arranged better so that there's more room for other things. And I did finally get a bunch of my posters put up. I had a bunch more to put up. And then, I've only been living here for 5 years, so getting those unpacked now is about on time.
Dude, I've got a pile of posters over there.
Yeah.
And I need to get them up. I need to do something with them, but I haven't.
Well, a
And I might.
a bunch of my posters have been in storage so long that they're really not worth putting up anymore. They kinda just
Oh.
degraded. But some of them, the tin posters are up now, and then I have a bunch of Doctor Who posters that were, like, in plastic shielding, so those will
Oh,
go up.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
those look good then still.
yeah. Um, and there's a lot more that I want to do with my garage, but with the amount of stuff that I'm also storing in there, it's a little bit difficult, but I'm working on clearing out more. Also, I pretended I was a plumber again at the insistence of my wife and replaced the sink in the downstairs bathroom, switching from a pedestal sink to one with a lot more surface area. It looks very nice and was actually a pretty simple swap. Maybe I should think about a career change. Is being a plumber less stressful than working in tech?
I mean, it's a dirty job, but it pays well. And to be
Yeah.
honest with you, after the first year or two, you just work for yourself, man. You
Uh-huh.
take on as many jobs as you want or not, and you can make a ton of money doing that. Same with electrician.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, everybody's
I
got a house, and everybody needs those two things without a doubt. There's no way that you can get by without those two things,
I'm not a
unless you
big
live.
fan of playing with mains power, so
So plumber it is
prob
then.
probably not an electrician.
Ah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
then, oh, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say the whole point of becoming an electrician is learning how not to blow yourself 100 feet backwards.
Ah.
That's the whole deal, right? You know how to
Mhm.
deal with it. Someone's got to.
Yeah, but, accidents happen.
Well, no. Negligence happens.
No, accidents do happen. Um, I know people that work for AT&T and they work up on power lines setting things up, and they have a completely different definition of the words pole dancer.
Yeah,
It's an
for
actual
sure.
thing. Yeah. But moving on, most of my modded retractables are causing me problems of one kind or another. So I'm looking at new ways for tension relief on them. I think I found some. I think the problem may be that the wires are too thin, and the heat shrink that I'm using, even though it's the smallest I have, is not providing enough of a grip on the wire itself. This is leaving too much tension directly on the wire and allowing the pressure of opening and closing to go directly to the join, even with the hot glue around it. I had stopped using a knot in midline because the knot was originally to keep it from retracting too far. But now I'm thinking that it may help inside the heat shrink by providing a bit more grip. So it's not, the tension is going to the heat shrink, which then spreads it across the rest of the line and not directly on the joint. And this actually does seem to work. I did do it on a couple of the retractable headsets. And so, yeah, we'll see if that works. And I also ordered a different style of connector than the ones I normally get, but I don't know if that's going to work out any better, especially since I won't be able to use the hot glue method on it because it's plastic instead of metal around the outside. But because it's a snap together design, I should be able to use like Gorilla Glue or something, and that should hold the wire in place. And a knot should help in the middle of that as well. A couple of other things. You were talking about Steam earlier, and I actually did get a Steam game. Arcanum of Steamworks and Magic. It's
Hold on, that game sounds super familiar. Hold
dude,
on,
it's from
let
like
me look that up.
2001. I played it when it first came out, and I loved that game. And I played it all the way through a couple of different times, and it was one of my favorite games for a really long time. And it being like $6, I
Yep,
grabbed a copy and
I
added it
played
to my
this
account.
one while I was in high school.
Yeah, I was in the army, so
Yeah,
yeah.
yep, absolutely, man.
On the first PC that I owned. So I'm gonna give
Yeah,
that
look
a
at that.
run.
Look at that. All reviews very positive.
Well, there are
I
so
need to
many
go back.
mods out there for it too. Like,
Ah,
aftermarket mods. People have done things to make it look better, add more content and things like that. Now, I don't know if you can add them to a, a game purchased on Steam,
yeah, you
but
should be able to. I mean, the
yeah,
game is in the little Steam apps folder, the common folder, and it's just the game, so you should be able to mod it the same way.
yeah. And I haven't tried any of the mods yet, so I don't know um, how much it would help. But I look forward to maybe finding out one day. But I have to have free time.
Yep,
Um,
and there might be the Steamworks mod thing. I don't know how to get to that from here, but um,
I'll look into it.
oh, the workshop. Here it is. Let me see if
Yeah.
maybe I can find something.
Well, I've also I had a Note 5 sitting around that I picked up at a really good price that the regular touch screen doesn't work on, but it works with the stylus. And I had I didn't give it to my son, but I loaned it to my son for him to use to listen to audiobooks while we were doing things like going for a walk. But the seems like the very first thing he did was turn the stylus around backwards and break it off on the inside, so now the stylus doesn't fit back in, and
Oh no.
that's an annoying fix. But if I take it apart to fix that, I might be able to fix the touchscreen, because the touchscreen sometimes works. So I'm assuming that it's just a messed up connection, or a connection that got loose. So I should be able to push it back in and see if that helps. Um, Other than that, it like I said, it's just been work, work, work. Oh, something that I didn't put in the innards section, but is pie related, was I finally switched out the case. My old case for my Pi 4 was the fan in it was extremely loud, so I switched it out for this really cool looking Nintendo case that looks like an original Nintendo NES. And yeah, I'm really liking it. It's got a smaller fan, but it's quiet, so I'm liking that. And then I also had pulled out my one of my original Raspberry Pi, the B plus model for the first version. So it's a version 1, but it's not the one with the 2 USB ports. Or the 1 USB. I can't remember. It's been so long since the Pi 1 came out.
I
But
know.
it's the one with the more USB ports on it. And I think it had a little bit more RAM than the original V1, but that was about it. Still,
Yeah.
ancient, slow at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But really cool to have. And yeah, that's it.
Well, I can't say I've got much more similar stuff, right? I mean, most of my time has gone to Pi projects, which I have 3. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time tinkering and taking notes and all that kind of stuff. The other half of my nerd time is on Arch for Linux user space, and I think it's nice. It's good. I'll save all the good bits, but let's just say I don't hate it. It's way better than I expected. And the other little bit, so when I'm not nerding out and hanging out with everybody else that's here, it's Final Fantasy.
That's still
So
nerding, just so you know.
yeah, it's true. It's a shame Bo's not here because this is pretty much his game. I think between he's an MMO guy, so between World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14, I mean those are his games. And I've just recently got back into Final Fantasy 14. However, I need to pick Bo's brain on how to run it on Linux. I think it's actually pretty easy to do. I just haven't tried it yet. I've been playing most of that on Windows. But it's terrible enough, this game. If you try and buy this game and install this game and update this game and get to the game, you'll pull your hair out. There are you need like 4 accounts to even be able to log in. You need like a Square Enix account, then you need like a Sony account, and then that gets you into like the MOG station or something, which is where you buy your subscription. And then there's another webpage where you can use the points that you get from buying your subscription to buy other things. And I mean, seriously, it's terrible. And if you need to just install the game, I mean, good luck, because you have to go find the executable file, the installer for the launcher. And so you can't just type in FFXIV launcher and download it immediately. You can't go to Final Fantasy 14.com and download it's like there's no link to it. I think the download page is behind FinalFantasy14.com, but there's no link to it on FinalFantasy14.com. It's like they're hiding it from you. I don't know why they would hide it from you, but anyway, it literally took me like 2 hours to get this thing spun up, not including download time. Trying to figure out how to get the accounts together, what pages to go to, how to hook everything up, how to download the thing. Just it was terrible. If you have to Google more than once to download the launcher for a game, I think you've gone too far. It's too hard to find it. It should just be front and center. I mean, like there should just be a huge download button on FinalFantasy14.com. I mean, you can't log into the launcher without an account anyway. I don't know why you hide it. Anyway, that's it. That's my rant for the day. And so we'll talk about some Pi projects then. So yeah, that'll do it for our wanderings. Let's head down to the innards. All right, Joe, you've been pieing it up. What I see noobs at the top of this. So you're going. I mean, you're doing the default install.
Well, sort of. I wanted to test out the state of multi-booting with Pi, so I had tried out a couple of different things. I really, really wanted to expand my repertoire here and hit up Pixie Boot, but I just could not make it
Mm.
work. I was beating my head against it.
So
I
was it the Pi that wasn't picking an IP up, or was it the DHCP server not
okay.
serving up Pixie boots
No,
correctly?
let,
Pixie IP addresses.
I set up the iSCSI target right on my home machine, and I got that all set up, and it looked like it was working. And I even was able to go in and check the logs of that and verify that the Pi was connecting to it because the name of the initiator came up in the logs.
Right.
So it says it's connected on that end, but then when the Pi does that, it says can't find anything there. It's not
Oh.
connected. I can't remember the exact error, but it says that there's no target. So, despite the fact that the handshake happened and it's obviously there, it's not able to actually connect.
Hmm. So did you
So,
give NFS a try?
NFS, network file share. For Pixie booting, no.
Hmm.
I didn't know that there was a way to do that. I thought it had to be over iSCSI. Everything I read said iSCSI, iSCSI, iSCSI.
I haven't really played with it a whole lot. I remember using Fog Project at the time to get all that done. That I think is probably a good way to go about it. Because I mean, they've got everything built in that you would need to do imaging and pixie booting and all of that kind of stuff. So it might be worth a look. I mean, I'm sure it would pies as well. It's just images. So, but anyway, yeah. As far as I remember, it was NFS. I think
Okay. Well, if it
maybe.
works over NFS, that'd be a lot easier.
Well,
But
whatever it was, my Pixie booting server had all the stuff on that same server, so I didn't actually. Maybe I didn't even need a a network share of any kind. I just hosted it all locally. Maybe that's what it was.
yeah, well, if you had it all like sitting on the same machine, then yeah, that's one thing. I'm not sure. You'll have to walk me through how you set it up later.
Yeah.
But yeah, Noobs offers the option to install to an external drive now, but supposedly it doesn't work the way that I thought it would. But when I pulled the drive after setting up with like when I pulled the external drive after setting up with Noobs, I could see the different root file systems on that. So maybe it does work the way that I thought it should. So this multi-boot has a lot to do with booting from SSD is one of the things that I wanted. Now I worked with a couple of different Pis throughout all of this, including the Pi Zero, just to try things out. Um, now there was I used Noobs and I also used Berry Boot. Now with Noobs, I got a lot more options for multi-boot, and the option to use one of the external drives was there. And that's what I did. Picked a couple of different OSs to install and test just to see how well it would work. And then later on, I did more with the 4, and I'm going to compare with that. The first test with the Pi Zero was the Noobs, used an older external spinning Rust drive. I wanted to see the differences in using the older drive versus using an SSD. Well, quickly, the older drive died during the update stage, so I didn't get a good amount of testing out of that. But I will say that when I was doing the install process and started the update process before it died, the bottleneck was really the processor. It was pegged out at 100% the whole time. I really don't think I was maxing out that USB to the external drive. And then, but the drive started clicking and clicking and clicking, and then the whole install process slowed down to like nothing, and it just sat there. After that, I switched over to the SSD and installed the same OSs, and that was LibreElec, Recalbox, and Raspbian 32-bit. And because on Noobs, for some reason, Well, okay, it was the Pi Zero anyway, so all you could get was the 32-bit. And I also installed one of the Arch variances. It worked and was a little bit faster, but the issue for that did turn out to be that the processor spent the whole time maxed out. And
And
the
this is
RAM
all on
was
a
hardly even used.
this is on a Pi Zero?
This is on a Pi Zero.
Wow. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it will
Yeah.
definitely do that. My Pi 2 struggles, and a Pi Zero would struggle even more. I haven't
Oh,
used my
dude.
Pi 1 in a long time, which is supposedly the same CPU. But yeah, I can easily see how that CPU was just crunching it the whole
Oh,
time.
yeah, yeah. I still use the Pi Zero for like white hole, and I know that a Zero can be used to do things like create a MAME handheld, and I've used it for MAME before, but it's definitely like a single-use dedicated device. As for multi-boot, I think it's worth it on the Zero.
Oh, right.
I really did give it the best possible setup using that external SSD, and it was still extremely slow. It's definitely not a desktop experience or anything like that. So find your niche for that Pi Zero and use it that way.
A camera, Get the little
Yeah,
camera, the little
well,
$40 camera and the little $5 case and slap it all together, and you have a way better
then
solution
put
using
motion
Motion
on
Eye.
there. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Way better solution than, most of the things. You have to deal with it, of course. It's not log into your Amazon dashboard and look at all 18 of your
right.
cameras, but it's also your thing and it's private. And I had, so apparently those things, like the like name brand ones don't have local storage. They all do it over Wi-Fi. And I had this one guy trying to sell me this stuff, which I mean it's fine. But he was telling me that there's that the guys that porch pirates and things like that, they'll bring Wi-Fi jammers now, so you don't actually get the video feed of them stealing your stuff. And I was like, oh, I don't need any of this stuff. It's fine. My I have a camera that does all that. And he was talking about, oh well, they'll use the Wi-Fi jammer to stop. And I'm like, it's fine because there's local storage. And he
Yeah,
seemed surprised by that. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I don't care as long as the camera itself or the board doesn't fry. I'll be able to get everything off of it. And even if it does, I'll slap the SD card and something else and steal all the video off of it. So
well,
it'll be all right.
I've heard of, or I've read of people setting up the Pi Zero for like Octoprint or something like that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it doesn't really have the processing power to do Octoprint and a camera at the same time. So
Right.
you
Oh, I
can't
see.
use
Yeah,
Octoprint to its full abilities.
yeah.
But
Just one thing at a time.
yeah,
If you're watching the live feed from the camera, that will max out at CPU. I mean,
oh yeah,
easily. Even at
oh
like
yeah.
8 frames a second, it'll max out the CPU. So just set it, watch it, make sure it's behaving correctly on the motion sense, and then never look at it live again unless you need to, just for a few seconds. But other than that, just grab the little videos that it makes, and
But
that would just be
it's
good enough.
also perfect for things like a white hole where it's got no real front end. It's got a web interface, and
Oh
then
yeah,
you're just,
yeah,
accessing it as needed, and it's working in the background and do something relatively easy. But
right.
yeah,
What is Recall Box?
Recall Box is like RetroPie.
Oh, super cool.
Yeah. I like RetroPie a little bit better. It's a little bit more robust than Recall Box.
I've played with Batacera. I've gone to all the other ones. I've used all the other ones, but it seems
Well,
like Batacera seems to be the
Batacera
best
and
one.
RetroPie look exactly the same.
And I do Batacera on a laptop, which is
Yeah, same
why
here.
I
Same
went
here.
I went Batacera with that one. It's been fantastic, man. Bluetooth pairing of devices is super easy. It couldn't be easier. It works exactly the way you expect it to.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the next thing that I did was power up the Pi 4 that I'd been using previously as a file server using SSHFS. It hasn't been powered on in a while, so the update took a bit of time. And the bottleneck was definitely the micro SD for that one. I mean, there was nothing on the processor, and nowhere near the RAM. I think it got up to like 55% maybe on the CPU.
Yeah.
It did take a long time to update, but after that it ran fine. I can't say I would want to use it as a daily driver, but it was distinctly usable, especially with the Netflix fix on it, the Widevine fix, so that Netflix can be watched from it. It's an old fix, and I don't know if it's still needed on that. Oh, and I do want to mention that when I first started doing this, especially using the Pi Zero, I started out using Wi-Fi. I switched over to wired after a couple of tests with the Pi 4 because it gives you, well, you can actually try and use Pixie Boot if you're wired, but you can't do it over wireless. You were about to say something?
Yeah, I think the Netflix thing is totally dependent on the browser. But I
Yeah,
think Chromium doesn't come with it built
right.
in, which is what I think that's what you get on Raspberry Pi OS.
Oh, with the fixed one on Raspberry Pi OS, I thought you still had to either do the fix or get the specific version that had the
Oh, right.
Widevine fix
Yeah,
added
that's what I'm
in.
saying. Because you get what I'm saying is you get Chromium with Raspberry Pi OS. I don't know whether it has the fix built into it or not. I mean,
Okay.
I've never done Netflix on a Pi. I've always had a laptop or a tablet or a phone or something or a TV to do it on. So
Yeah.
it never occurs to me.
Some of my notes here do talk about the Wi-Fi that I was using as well, and okay. Um, and the next thing I did was I pulled that SD card and swapped it for another with Berry Boot installed. It came up right up to the Berry Boot screen. It's actually difficult to make comparisons to the Zero because the available 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi and the faster processor, or being able to hook up, an Ethernet. Needless to say, the install went pretty smooth, and the downloads for the OS was pretty fast. I wrote the OS to the SSD again, and another thing that may have had a lot of impact would be USB throughput. But while I know I could have manually added images to this, the stock selection was pretty limited. I was actually kind of disappointed with in that regard, and only included like basic distros. The other tab isn't there, and nothing specialty like Libre. It's just the Raspberry Pi OS, Ubuntu, Manjaro, SUSE, and things like that. But I was wrong the other day when I was talking to you, Leo. Like one of the times I set this up,
Hold on,
Raspbian
wait.
OS 64 was actually there.
You were wrong?
Yeah, it happens. It happens. I freely admit it. That type of thing happens. So yeah, for that one I only installed Raspbian, and that was just a test. The boot up was not instant, and Berry Boot was using a much older version of Raspbian for some reason. That time when I loaded it up, but we'll get into the issues that ended up being the problem there. But that was an extremely old version. I mean, it didn't even ask me to change the password. That's
Oh,
how old the
wow.
version was. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
All right.
The updating took a while, but definitely as long as the Zero. I thought I had ended up with a corrupted copy of Noobs when I tried it again. Also, looking online, even though the option is available to use the external drive, what everybody said is that it would install to the micro SD, supposedly. And like I said, when I pulled the drive and hooked it up to another machine, I can still see all the different partitions on the external drive. So I'm assuming that it's just putting the root folders there. So again and again on the Pi 4, Raspbian didn't want to work. Using Noobs and a micro SD card or the external drive, at least, not with multi-boot. The other OSs, some of them seemed to work fine and were snappy. Like I was able to get Libre Elect to load. And I did do the USB boot fix. That basically you install the new firmware onto a micro SD card, and you using the Raspberry Imager, and that was extremely helpful. Raspberry Imager, and then you put it in, turn it on, screen turns green. You turn it off, you take it out, you put in, and you can just boot directly from USB at that point. Uh, But having done the USB boot fix, I attempted several things and found out that the issue I was having getting new images to load ended up being the USB 3.0 to SATA cable that I was using.
No
Yeah,
way.
dude.
It was the
It,
cable the whole
it,
time?
Well, it was evidently that particular brand of cable because I have a whole bunch that were new in the box, and they were the Sovereigns, like fresh pulled out of the box, been sitting on my shelf for a little while. That's it, and evidently, just some of them don't work all that well.
Wow.
So I had to stop using that one, and that was like 16 hours of my life trying to load different images on there and get things to work and beating my head against it. Why is it working sometimes but not other times? Why some OS is working more often than others? It was driving me absolutely insane. I thought I was going nuts. I was about to turn in my tech card and just,
Oh, wow. But it was the
but
cable. I
it
can't
was a
believe it.
cable. Now I did have to switch to a 2.0 cable, but it worked. So,
I mean,
um
2.0 is faster than 0.0, so
yeah. So
wow.
after I switched to the cable, I installed Ubuntu 64 to test, and it worked fine. Slightly faster boot times with it, but I wanted to test multi-boot, so I went back to Noobs. I installed the same OSs as I listed before, and did the update for Raspbian. The bottleneck, definitely not the CPU. Pretty sure the bottleneck that time was the USB 2.0 adapter, so read writes to drive. And once again, CPU never went over 55%, and the RAM was nowhere near used. It was a lot of updates that had to go through.
Yeah. And this
And
is
I
on
have
your
to
Pi
say,
4, right?
this is on the Pi 4.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I think CPU-wise, I mean, unless you're really trying to use it for a daily driver desktop, the CPU right now, I think, is at a fantastic point. And if we ever see a Raspberry Pi 5, um, I would be fine if they were like, it's a slightly upgraded version of the CPU before. I
Yeah,
mean, that like
I
5%, 10% increase in speed, I'm happy with that. It's fine. The CPU is fantastic.
I really want them to optimize just like video.
Oh yeah, so
That's it,
you're looking at
like
using it
full
as a
screen
as a
video.
desktop replacement kind of thing.
I want that ability to be there, not
Yeah.
necessarily to, do that, but just for that ability to be there. Because there are a
Mhm.
lot of people that would, especially at that lower price point. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
80, even if it, an $80 version of it, people would really use that.
Look, here's what I want out of a Raspberry Pi. I don't care which version I have to buy to get it. I want the software to integrate in with either the Google Cast or Apple AirPlay so that I can send things to it. Because
Yeah.
all of the apps on your phone or your tablet or whatever, they all support that stuff. So if we could just get a little receiver box for a Raspberry Pi that would just double up as one of those things, I want that. If it exists, please tell me because I will go buy a Pi right now and make that work.
Hmm. Now, I will say that it definitely seems to be worth it to do the USB boot fix, and then hooking up an external drive and doing it that way, and then just getting rid of the micro SD card. It's faster, it's more stable. You get more space for your dollar, and especially if you're planning on doing something like. And multi-boot can be helpful, especially if you're going to have a desktop and then also do something like RetroPie or Recall Box. Now, Raspberry Pi Imager, I mentioned that before. It's extremely useful. It will give you those different USB boot or the different boot modes for the Pi, and it will change the boot order without having to go through install Raspbian and then manually go in, change the EEPROM, thing like that. So you just put in you image it, you put it in, you turn it on, you wait 20 seconds, you turn it off, and you're good. Um, it also gives you the option of using an image file. So, like my previous build that I was using on there for SSHFS file server, I could take that micro SD card, put it into an adapter, put it into my main computer, create an image of the entire thing, and then put that onto a hard drive and use it that way, or a thumbstick and use it that way, and then expand the file system once I'm in there.
Yeah, I mean, because Even flash drives just beat the pants off of an SD card.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times in
Absolutely.
speed. I have an ADATA. It's like an S102, I think is what it is. That particular model has been in production for forever. I've watched it about 1,000,000 times, and the thing, you can write to it at like 70 or 80 megabytes per second, and the read speed is like 120 or 140. I mean, that's hard drive level, better than hard drive level, because there's no seeking. I mean,
Right.
it's fantastic, and putting a Raspberry Pi on that's its last little, as you were saying, it's its last little bottleneck. And so if you can
Yeah,
get it on one
and
of
you
those
can
faster
get
flash drives, it's fantastic.
right, and with your flash drives, you can get a lot more storage space than
Yeah.
for a lot less money than you can with a micro SD. I think the largest micro SD card I've seen in person is like 512, and those are, expensive
Yeah. I mean,
compared to a thumbstick.
per gig, they're pretty close, but I mean, once you start getting into I care about speed, I mean, the SD cards just can't match it, like, in
Yeah.
any way whatsoever. You're not gonna get those speeds on an SD card. I mean, it's meant for a 4K, camera to just slowly trickle the video into the card. That's what it's for. But, we don't use them that way. We we use them for operating system things, all kinds of weird random writes instead. So, that is really where it kills the performance.
Yeah. And one thing it took me a little while to, find out is with Berry Boot no longer including a good selection of OSs for download. I don't know why they're doing that that way anymore. If you can get it from them, because they have a list on their website of all of the different ones that work for the different Raspberry Pis, and you can go in and download directly from them. What you can do is dump that onto a USB stick, and then after Berry Boot screen comes up, you can add the thumbstick into the Pi and pick the images from there and manually add them to your overall image. So you can add anything you want from there that they have listed there. But you can also use something like a program called Berry Converter to turn any image file into a Squash FS image file and then add it to your setup. So you can literally manually add any OS that you want, and Berry Boot will take care of that partitioning for you and setting it up as a multi-boot.
That's
Now,
super cool.
I did try, having two like USB connected drives just to see what would happen, both of them with an image, and then it just picks whichever one comes up first. So it's not like it gives you the choice to multi-boot that way.
Yeah, right.
And then I also want to mention that I did switch from using the SSD to using just USB 3.0 thumbsticks because I liked one of the setups that I had ended up with on the SD.
That's pretty cool.
And the thumbsticks worked well enough. And I was also using a external powered hub.
Oh, right, yeah. I mean, so certainly, I mean, if you can go SSD, do it. But I mean, flash drives will already
Yeah.
most flash drives will already outperform SD cards. So, anything
Uh,
that's USB, go for it.
I guess another thing to mention would be that, well, because it's the Pi 4, you need a really good power supply in the first place. But especially if you're going to do an external drive, a spinning disk, or an SSD, but especially if you're using like a spinning disk, which eats a bit of power, it's better to have like a high power port replicator as opposed to just a hub or a switch. So I did actually have a port replicator, one of the ThinkPad ones. So
Yeah,
that's got a bit of a brick of its own power supply.
yeah, I was gonna say my recommendation on that is just to get a powered hub, USB hub or something like that, and run your hard drive through that.
Well,
That way you'll power you actually power the drive, or the drive itself needs to be powered.
right.
Um,
Most of your powered hubs are sitting at like the 5-volt, 2.5 amp range.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I kind of misspoke on that one. What I really mean is that the hard drive itself or the SSD, if you can power it separately from the
Right. Yeah.
Raspberry Pi
Yeah.
OS, do that, And I mean, because as far as I understand, if you don't power it, you can, and the Raspberry Pi is not getting enough juice, you can end up with a bunch of data corruption because
Yeah.
it doesn't have the power to
Or
actually write the data.
cutouts.
So you've got to be careful. Yeah, you got to be pretty careful with that.
But no, I took it a step beyond that. Instead of using a powered hub, I used a powered port replicator, which I
Got it.
believe has a 12-volt input and then regulates it through the 7 ports, and then also has 2 display port outs. But
Oh,
those
that's cool.
are with like display links, so I didn't have any of that set up or anything. I wouldn't anyway, because that way too much overhead and processor. But that
Gotcha.
it does provide audio as well, and that is extremely useful.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of audio, on accident I came across because I just a minute ago I was talking about give me AirPlay. Now, and what I was talking about was like video. Like YouTube. You've got Google Cast or whatever Chromecast thing, whatever. I want to be able to cast that to a Pi to connect it up to a TV, so I don't have to use the smart TV whatever stuff or have a set top box of some kind to handle that. I want a Pi to do that. But there is kind of a solution for that for audio, and it is single Balena sound. So okay, I came across this on accident. So I'm on an Archbox trying to image an SD card, and I just want to do it easy, right? I don't want to have to DD and remember all the little switches that I need to use to make it right or whatever. I'll just shove it through one of these things. And apparently, Raspberry Pi, the little software for it, only works in Ubuntu. And so I'm not going to deal with that. I don't think the imager itself was in the Arch repo, so whatever. So I was like, all right, what's the other one? The other one, what was it called? Etcher, that's right. So I go and get Etcher, and while I'm letting the SD card install or get all the files on the SD card, in it, there's a little ad for Balena Sound, and I'm reading about it. It's exactly what I was talking about, just for audio. So whatever audio you're playing on your device, you can AirPlay it or Spotify connect it straight to a Raspberry Pi using a high fidelity DAC or something like that. You can use the built-in audio. It's not as good, so if you spend a bunch of money on speakers, you're not going to get the right quality out of it. But I mean, if you don't really care much about the quality, or you're just trying to make it loud or something like that, then I mean, using the built-in on your Raspberry Pi will work. But this is half of the solution. I just need this for video now too.
Right.
And oh man, I'll be so happy.
Two things there. One, I had an old project on the show where I set up a
Something
sound
mopedy, right?
server. Yeah, a Mopedy server,
Yeah.
and that allowed me to cast or set up a file where you could, store all your different songs that you wanted to use, including using like what is it? Google's where do they store audio? Google Audio or whatever it is. I can't remember.
They've changed it like 4 times. They just recently
Yeah,
killed off one, so I don't know. I have no
yeah,
idea.
yeah. But the other thing there so that was a good setup for that type of thing, just for the audio once again, not for video. But no, there's still this major problem, and that's why I wanted, a video upgrade on the Pi 5 when it comes out, is that full screen YouTube plays like garbage.
Oh, right, right.
Mm.
Well, one of these days we'll have exactly what I'm hoping for, and I'll go throw a bunch of money at those people. Please, please do it. But while I was looking at Balena Sound, I realized that the group Balena, they do a bunch of stuff, and this is one thing that I've been meaning to do, and it's a Raspberry Pi frame. So this is, I mean, you could hook it up to a TV if you wanted to, or a monitor or anything like that, and then just run like a dashboard. So I think having dashboards is like one of the most nerdy things that you could possibly do if you have a bunch of hardware or something like that running, and you'd like to just kind of have a brief look at it every now and then, especially if you have power issues where you're not sure if something's up or down until it tells you no. This is a good way to kind of keep up with that. So I'm actually very interested in this. I don't want to do so. If you're watching the live stream, you can kind of see they've got a a little 7-inch display or something like that, and all that. I don't need the kit. I'd like to just hook it up to a whole monitor or even a TV or something like that, and just have stats because I'm a nerd like that. I think that would work. Um, so about the flashing issue, Norbert said to use disks, and I said I didn't want to use disks because I didn't want to pull in a bunch of GNOME dependencies. I was using Plasma, and Dale says Popsicle works very well. I wonder if Popsicle is in the Arch repo. If it was, I should have used it, but then I would not have seen Balena Sound and then by extension Balena Dash. So these are two. Joe, we're gonna have to have another Pi Projects episode where I do Balena Sound and Balena Dash, just because they look like really cool projects, both of which I want. So
What was
just
Balena Dash again? I missed it. I had to step away for a second.
you could set it up as like a what do you call that thing? Like picture frame. You can set it up to where it'll
Okay.
just do images, but it supports GIFs and videos and all that stuff. Or you can set it up as a web front end, essentially just a dashboard for all of your hardware, all of your software, timekeeping, all of that stuff. I mean, you could set it up to be kind of whatever you want it to be. And it's GPU accelerated, so I mean, I would imagine there's going to be some nice transitions and things like that. So, and you just hook it up to a TV or a computer monitor, or you can use the little 7-inch display that they've got here, and build the whole thing.
Mm.
So
Sounds
fantastic, man. I mean, it looks good to me. I'm excited. I want to try it out. I don't know how well it'll work, but
cool. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to hold off on another Pi episode for a little while. It seems to chase everybody else away.
maybe. You know what? Maybe that's what it needs. It just needs to be Leo and Joe from here on out. So
Maybe.
it's only going to be Pi episodes. That's the trick.
Ugh. That'll get boring after a little bit.
Yeah, I think we're going to run out of stuff. There's only so much. I think I've done most of the stuff I want to do. I just keep finding new things now.
Yeah.
But
Well, some of my projects would, and I'd want to start doing like hardware-based projects, and then they start costing money.
yeah. See, I don't have unlimited money. I have unlimited software capabilities because most of the software is open source, but I don't have unlimited money for unlimited hardware.
Right.
Yeah.
Those little
So
7-inch screens can get expensive.
yeah, I mean, I think they're sub 100, but I mean, you just have to keep buying them. Let me see it. I think they had a little thing. Display. Oh, any Raspberry Pi display will work. So they don't link one though.
I still got to set up a Pi Pico project.
Yeah,
I've got like 5
honestly.
of them sitting here.
Oh wow. Yeah, that'd be fun too. But to the projects that I actually did. So I was talking about a while back that I set up a WireGuard server. It's still running. It's still fantastic. I still use it every time I'm more than 100 feet away from my house. And I couldn't be happier with it. Unless the Raspberry Pi performed as good as my actual VM that I'm running it off of. So it's running off of an ESXi server. It's your standard VM. I think it's got 2 cores of an i5 3000 series processor. So I mean, it's got enough oomph to give me whatever my network card can support. So what I tried, and this is over Wi-Fi, mind you, my local. Let me see. It looks like to me.
Which Pi is this on?
This is on a Pi 3B Plus. So
Okay.
I want to try it again on the Pi 4 to see if I get any better numbers, but I'm happy with them the way that they are. So I'm not going to go away from the VM, spoiler, but it's good enough. If I had to, I'd be happy with it. So on my VM, so this isn't a Pi yet. So on the VM that I'm actually using, this is what I connect to every single time I leave the house. I can get 140 megabits per second throughput to online sources. So I'm using fast.com to see how fast I can get through this VPN. And 140 megabits seems to be the absolute speed that I can get off of this thing. Using Wi-Fi, by the way, on a phone. When I turn WireGuard on through that VM, I get 45 megabits per second, that's enough to do Netflix streaming, to do anything. I mean, that's enough. 40 megs, I think, in general is enough and 45 is what I was getting.
So this is a VM and not Docker?
Correct. This is
Okay.
WireGuard installed on Ubuntu, which is in a VM on ESXi. Yeah, a little convoluted,
Yeah,
but that's the setup.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, I'm happy with it. I probably won't change it unless the Pi 4 is just fantastic. So, on the Raspberry Pi, I spent some time getting it all set up, doing all the generating keys stuff. So it's actually pretty simple to do. I did not talk about it on the original show. But really there's about 3 steps that you have to do. Number 1, generate your keys. And I've got a command in the show notes that will have you generate the public key and the private key, which you need. And then on the client, you'll generate another public and private key, and then you trade the public keys. And if you can do SSH with keys, you can handle WireGuard, or at least the key exchange of WireGuard. The next step is creating a Wg0 Conf, or you can name it whatever you want to. You just have to remember its name. To add in your private key for the server, the address of the server, the listening port, and IP tables rules that will help you do the masquerades stuff. And then you add in a peer section, you add the public key of your client and the address that you want it to use. So that's pretty much it. I mean, half of that is copy paste, and the other half is slight networking that you could probably just steal from somebody's how-to. So, I mean,
you're gonna
as long
have
as
to test. You're gonna have to test your speeds again, hooked up to Ethernet instead of over Wi-Fi with the Pi.
So I don't want to do that, and let me tell you why. I'll never use it that way. I will never, ever, ever. Oh, wait. Hang on. My Pis are always hardwired.
Okay, then. Yeah.
Okay, right. It's so yeah. So what I think you thought was that my Pis were using Wi-Fi and doing WireGuard over Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
No. So my phone was on Wi-Fi or LTE, depending, I guess, and that's where these speeds are coming from. Let me see. Oh, actually, no, they were all LTE, all of them. So I was able to get on the VM. I'm sorry, by itself, no VPN. I was getting 140 meg, and then when I turned the VPN, I got 45 meg. When I was using the Raspberry Pi, after setting it up, I was getting, let's see, 65 megabits without and 30 megabits with. So I mean that was pretty decent though. So anyway, so WireGuard speed 30 megabits per second, which is a little slightly less than the VM at 45 megabits per second, which that's still usable. The only the only downside to that was and it totally could have been my network at the time. It took a while for it to ramp up to 30 megabits. I'm not sure what that was. I did it a couple times. It behaved the same both times, but that was within like 5 minutes. So it may be. I'll do some more testing and see.
Yeah,
But,
in most instances, you're not going to notice the difference between 30 and 45.
No, you're really not. I mean, especially if you're watching video, even at 1080p, what is that, like 15 megs is what you need for something like that? So, I mean, you'll be fine. It'll be absolutely fine. Plus, I mean, it does all the buffering and stuff, so it pre-caches all of it. I mean, you're good. You're absolutely good with 30 megabits per second. And that's what the Pi 3B Plus gave me. I suppose that the Pi 4 will do even better. Because one of the downsides of the Pi 3B Plus is that while it is a 1 gig NIC, it's on the South Bridge. So it's sharing with USB and everything else. Now, I wasn't using USB, but I mean, yeah, I do wonder if that was part of the bottleneck. Because the CPU wasn't spiking or anything like that. Not hugely anyway, not at 100%.
Yeah,
So,
it might have a gig NIC, but you're limited to USB 2.0 speeds.
yeah, I think it's whatever it was. I think the website and the hardware spec said 300 megabits per second is the effective speed of it, but I really don't think you can actually get that.
Yeah.
So
the
that may be
actual's probably like 250 or something.
Yeah, that actually may be what's going on with that. So anyway, the other little thing that you have to do when you're setting it up is in Etsy syscontrol.conf. You have to turn on the IPv4 forwarding so that you can actually connect to things on your own network. So yeah, I mean, I've got those notes in there if you care to look. And then you bring it up with a wg-quick up wg0, which is the name of your conf file. That's why you have to remember the name of your conf file. So sudo wg quick up wg0, and then just same thing but with down to turn it on and off. And you can use that to set up a what do you call that? A service file. So you can do system control, and then you can enable it so it starts on boot. That way, it's always on and always ready for you whenever. Even after a power outage, as long as you get power back to it, it'll immediately be back up so long as all your network is available. So really cool stuff. I mean, I thought that was fun. I really enjoy WireGuard. It's fantastic that you don't have to do anything special on a Raspberry Pi. I mean, once you got it installed, which is the same as installing it on Ubuntu or Debian, the setup is the same. Everything is the same. So using a Raspberry Pi for this project is easy. It's fantastic. I love it. So if I didn't have a VM to run it on, or a host to run a VM on, this would easily be the right way to do it. So my other two, I run Fresh RSS off of my Pi 4, and it doesn't even make the Pi 4 sweat. So Fresh RSS is a web service that, well, think of it like Feedly, right? I mean, any kind of RSS feed that you have, it's like that, except it's presented to you on a web interface. So you can get to it from any device that can get to that web interface. And that's why I use WireGuard. So if I want to watch or read all the news and stuff like that, all my RSS feeds, I just type in the name of my Raspberry Pi, and it goes straight to it. And all of my feeds are right there. Actually, let me see. If you're on the live stream, this is it. So it's super easy. I mean, let's see. Mark all those as red, and you kind of see. Oh, mainstream. Oh, I think I have to mark everything as red. There. And then Linux will come back. Yeah. So you can just check out all of that stuff. And it's all day, every day. You have stuff floating in. This is how I stay on top of my news. And it's all run off of Pi 4. And this is what is done in Docker, by the way. So on a Pi 4, I installed Docker because you have to have two different pieces for it. You have to have Fresh RSS, and then you have to have a database running behind it. But the write-up on Docker Hub is so well done that you can quite easily just steal their, Docker Compose file, adjust it a little bit, and just never think about it ever again. So it is very nice dealing with all of this stuff, man. I can't say enough just how awesome Fresh RSS is. I mean, it's got a theme for dark mode. I was complaining a while back that I hated Fresh RSS because it didn't have a dark mode. I just didn't look hard enough. There are like 8 themes that it comes with, and a dark mode is one of them. And it's perfect. It's perfect now. Now, the only thing I hate is when I click on a link on a phone and I'm in a really dark room, it goes to a web page that is bright, blindingly white. So I have to like really quickly hit the screen, the reader button, so it'll go back to a dark mode. But yeah, I blame Firefox not supporting that just yet. But anyway, on a Pi, it works fantastic. I can't say how good it works enough. It's really, really good. Really, really easy to do as well. The other thing that I was doing that may have affected some of the speeds. I don't think it was because I wasn't using it at the time. But Git-T. So on that same Pi 3B Plus, I was running Git-T on it. And Git-T is, think of GitHub, self-hosted, very simple, fewer features. So if really all you're trying to do is store some junk in GitHub so that you can easily get to your config files or your dot files or whatever kind of file you want, this is it. This is the one. And you want to actually self-host it. Super easy to do on Ubuntu. I did Git-T via the snap. It's like 3 steps. It's snap install Git-T, go into var snap Git-T common conf app.ini. Change a couple of the values inside of there for your setup. And then sudo Git-T admin create user, give it a name, give it a password, and give it an email. I just set the password to password because it will literally be in my bash history. And then I went into Git-T to change it. So, I mean, kind of typical, right? I mean, for most users that get a password assigned to them, it's typical for how it's done. So yeah, just super duper easy, and then you'll log in with your username or your email and that password, and at that point, you just treat it like any other Git service out there, and it's amazing. So I do have configuration files that, like my WireGuard configuration, that it's in there, and it's super easy to pull back down and reset up just in case something blows up or something like that. So really good. I do mean to test out WireGuard on a Pi 2B Plus because I know there are tons of folks out there that got in early on the Raspberry Pi fervor, got Pi 1s and Pi 2s, and they're just floating around, probably not doing a whole lot. So I want to do some testing on the Pi 4 and on the Pi 2B Plus just to see what kind of speeds I get on WireGuard. I mean, just for fun, because why not?
Yeah. I don't think I have any 2Bs left. I know I have a 3 sitting around somewhere. And a 1.
Yeah, I was gonna say try it on a 1. I mean, because 1 would be the most terrible, and if you can get 10 megabits out of it, it would still be amazing.
Yeah, but the whole thing is that the hardware is almost exactly the same spec as the 0 for the 1. So I'm probably just going to use a 0.
Well, but a 0 you would have to use Wi-Fi.
Yeah, or a USB Ethernet adapter.
Yeah, okay, and yeah, because the NIC on the Pi B1 or Pi 1 is over the USB hub or over the so a USB bus. So I guess it would be the same effectively speed wise, but I've got an actual Pi 1.
That's so
I think I'll probably just use that one because I've got open switch ports.
Mine says 1.2B.
1.2B. So it was the later revisions of that particular Pi 1. I'll have to go look. I don't know what mine is. I do know it's a 1B something, but not exactly sure what. So anyway, WireGuard, Fresh RSS, Git T. It's been fantastic. I mean, my Pis, they're still getting some use. And I got to say, thanks again to Owen. He's the one that sent me the 3B Plus. And it's doing work. It's doing work. I love it. All right.
I just tend not to keep mine in production for very long. I'll get a project, I'll set up on it, and I'll use it for a little while, and then I'll set up the same project on a PC that runs a whole lot better and does 15 other things at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I had that problem until Git and Fresh RSS started running amazingly, and I just didn't want to touch them because they're fine. They run amazing. So I think I'm just going to leave them. And probably with the Pi 4, I'm going to add more to it because Fresh RSS doesn't make it sweat either. So, I mean, why not, just bring Git in there too and some other things and kind of consolidate into one Pi. But yeah, just it's amazing. They're amazing little boxes for what they can actually do. Anyway, that'll do it for our Linux Innards. So we'll hop down to vibrations from the ether. All right, first one up is Brad. So he writes in, first, I love the switch in the .0 section of the show. First the news and security, and then the wanderings. I really like this change. So we haven't gotten a lot of feedback on after the change. We got some feedback before. Most of it was go ahead and do it. I don't mind. One, I think we had a don't do it, but this is the first time we've heard I prefer it this way. So thanks for that. I do appreciate that, Brad. He goes on to say, second, regarding duck.com email, have you looked at Spam Gourmet? You tie a Spam Gourmet address, say foo at spamgourmet.com to your real email address, say bar@yahoo.com. And this is foobar, the foobar thing. It's there's a lot everywhere. Anyway, he goes on. Then from that time on, emails can be created on the fly, like say you are buying something from Staples. You can give them staples.5.foo@spamgourmet.com. The number 5 is the number of emails before that email address stops working. You can also on their website refill an individual email address to 20. I don't know about email trackers or anything like that, but it has worked for me for many years. So yeah, the tracking is one of the things I was looking for in what was it, duck.com. So that was really cool. But it's kind of nice though to have time sensitive or use sensitive email addresses. That way you just stop getting emails altogether from a particular sender. That's really cool. Anyway, so he goes on, speaking of Raspberry Pis, I also delved back into the world of Raspberry Pis after many years. I have a Dell 2850 that I was primarily using for backup PC. I recently expanded the pool on my TrueNAS and set up a 1 terabyte dataset and migrated backup PC to a jail. The other things I was running on that box was ISC DHCP server and Bind 9. So once I got backup PC working, I stood up a Pi Model 3B for Bind and DHCP server. I'm ready to turn off the server and save some bucks on electricity. Yeah, because you're going from like 50 to 100 watts down to 2 watts. Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yep.
So I think that 3B, you can put more on it. I mean, just DNS and DHCP on that Pi 3, it won't even break a sweat. It won't even think about any of those things, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good idea to put more stuff on it just for fun. Write in more so we can have more to talk about on these Pi episodes.
Okay, and Jeff said, although I never put in a SIM or memory, and he's talking about Pine phone that I currently have next to me. I have noticed that my Nokia on AT&T/Cricket is not HD voice compliant, and the carriers refuse to allow me back on their network should I ever disconnect. Everyone seems to be requiring HD voice to connect or even reconnect, so a big part of your eval might just be network policy acceptance, either due to HD voice or they just think it's some kind of bootleg device. Perhaps Ting Network or some obscure carrier might be needed. Wondering if PinePhone will be staying compliant for all carriers. Hope you're not stuck with just Wi-Fi. And then I responded, I have put in memory, but I have not put in a SIM yet. The operating system's on. I haven't used the EEPROM on. And I have tried out Ubuntu Touch, and I'm going to be switching to Manjaro. Now,
Yeah,
I am kind of disappointed in myself since over the last couple of weeks. I have not been able to get to this thing for testing. And I know I've mentioned it before, but work has been absolutely crazy, and I just have not had time to do hardly anything.
Yeah, I may, if I ever get my hands on this thing, and that's not a dig at you, Joe. I just don't know where I am in line. But if I ever get my hands on this thing, what I think I'm going to end up doing is probably throwing $20 at Ting so I can get a SIM and just see if the, how well phone works and if I can, browse the web a little bit. Because as far as I know, I mean, they only charge you for what you use. Do 20 megs of surfing and a few phone calls. It probably wouldn't be more than $10 or so. So that would be cool, though.
Yeah, but I do like using devices as Wi-Fi devices. The only thing is that it's a little difficult with this one in regards to there's no Google Voice app for it.
Right.
I don't know how well the web application is going to interact with the microphone and speaker. But it's something I will definitely have to find out.
Right. So Highlander emailed before the show a little bit, and it's kind of it's an update to, he had some issues with Kali and NVIDIA, but he mentions, once I figured out the roadblocks on how to install Kali to the hard drive, the Kali.org install NVIDIA drivers on Kali Linux website helped him get all that figured out. And he said, I've been waiting for this for 2 years. Well, I'm glad you got NVIDIA working. I mean, that is the whole reason. That right there is the whole reason I tend to just avoid altogether NVIDIA. I mean, AMD is not the best video card on the market, but I don't have to fiddle with drivers. I don't have to choose a separate option when I'm trying to boot. I don't have to go and tinker with no mod set. I don't ever have to install any kind of driver whatsoever. If I need the latest and greatest, I install the latest Mesa. So I can either use a forward-thinking distro, like some kind of Arch something or other, or I just add a PPA to Mesa. But at no time during that whole entire setup did I ever have to worry about dealing with a broken video card in the first place. So yeah, definitely. Anyway, so he does say, proof of concept, if you want to do a quick test to see if this is the case, just use the most recent disk image from Kali. And then he said he tried burning the ISO to a blank DVD. Anyway, he hadn't tried the failsafe boot option while using USB, but it's reasonable to presume that it'll work. So yeah, just miss me with the NVIDIA cards. I probably won't ever buy them until somehow they integrate them into the kernel, so I don't have to use. Well, the other option would be Nouveau being amazing. If there's a threshold where Nouveau can just play a lot of the most recent games, then that's fine. But the amount of times I hear people talk about, oh, I did an update and now my NVIDIA driver is broken. Why? Why? I don't get it. So anyway, AMD for me, and that's why. Anyway, that's it for the feedback. So let's check this out. All right, so a couple of things. So I guess August really is just release month for everybody. Kden Live 20.08 is out, and it seems like I mentioned before at the top of the show where this is getting the rudimentary support for GPU rendering. Yes! On my 5800X, I guess it would be about an hour 20 video rendering. Took about 35 minutes. I think 28 to 35 minutes, somewhere in there. It's a long time. And it's fine because usually I'm done editing in the middle of the night, and by the time I press render, I'm just going to bed. So the time doesn't really bother me at all, but it would be nice to be able to use the hardware that I know is capable of doing rendering way better than an 8-core CPU. It'd just be nice to use that instead. And the other thing, I've been playing around with logo work, and I've been using Krita. And, for the vectors, right? So I could blow it up to a gajillion pixels by a gajillion pixels, and it still looks good. But Krita 5 beta is out. So it looks like I'm going to have to figure out a little bit of the workflow, because there are some things that are changing, and I might have to redo some of the things. I think so. Some Krita 3 things won't work in Krita 5, and some Krita 4 things won't convert to Krita 5. So I'll have to play that one by ear. But I'm excited for Krita 5 to come out, just simply because I know I'll be able to sit on Krita 5 and not change my workflow any throughout its lifetime. And I can figure out whether or not I suck at making logos. That's probably true. It's just wishful thinking, really. But I can try. I'll try anyway. So anyway, some really cool K software out. Really cool stuff.
Yeah. I need to get back into using Kden Live.
It's good. The one thing that I have seen that Kden Live really kind of chokes on is exporting to a 60 frame video, 60 frame per second. It seems to not enjoy that. I get audio stuttering in it at the end of the render, and it's different every time you render it. So I don't know exactly what it is that is broken, but something is broken, and I'm hoping I was on a not 20.0 or 20.08. I was on a recent or a later version than that, or an earlier version. Man, words sometimes. An older version. Maybe they fixed that in the newest version, so I'm going to update and see. But one of the things that I forgot about it is that Flatpak seems to be the most stable way to get it, even though it's the same software. So if you get it in app image or you install it via the deb, if you do fades, which I do, they said that there was like a pink and green, like it'll flash pink and green during the fade. No, but apparently the Flatpak does not have that problem. I don't know why that would even slightly be the case, but that's a thing. So anyway, so maybe they figured out the 60 frames per second thing in the new version. Hopefully they did. I'll find out. I'll let you know. Just because I like Kden Live. It's really good. I've kind of gotten a really awesome workflow down for Kden, and I'm getting that way with Krita. It's a good thing that I hadn't been playing with Krita too long before 5 is starting to come out, so I don't have to unlearn a bunch of stuff. Either way, that's it for the show. So we got some announcements. Our normal announcement, our next episode. So this here thing is going to be September 5th, 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time. And our next Saturday show is going to be August 28th, 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time. So if you want to come swing in and you've got a decent mic, join us on that Saturday show, and we'll just have a big old powwow, talk about whatever we want to talk about, and just hang out for a bit.
Yeah, sorry we missed out on last Saturday's show. Everybody was busy doing other things. No one was available.
Yep, that last show was my daughter's birthday. So, yeah, couldn't do it. And then, Joe, it sounded like you were just getting hit with work from all sides, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I was swamped. It was a Saturday, and I was still swamped.
Yeah, sometimes.
Actually, next Saturday, I might be out on a hike. So, I don't know if I'm going to make that one.
Yeah, but, I should be there.
But as for the regular show, everybody, email us. Send us messages on Discord, send us messages in Telegram, give us ideas on what you want for the show, because we sometimes are having problems figuring out what we want to bring for the next episode.
I think life has been getting in the way more now.
Yeah, that's
in
that
these
time
past
of
couple
year.
of months. Yeah, than any other time. So yeah, brains get used a whole lot less for other things than work.
Yeah,
So.
and it's hard for me to find projects. A lot of that is time constraints. But
look, man, we just need to
some new
do an
projects.
SFTP episode, and we'll be good to go.
We already did an SCP episode.
No, we need to do it again.
Do it again.
Setting up WireGuard would be fun.
Actually, I would love for you guys to do an episode on setting up WireGuard and walk through all the steps and what needs to be done. That would be a great episode.
It is way easier. But the thing about those particular episodes is that...
way easier than it used to be. It would have to be.
Oh, yeah. But the thing about it, though, is that like showing the router stuff is different for everybody. So no one will ever be able to get it done.
Right.
Because some people's routers support that thing. Some people's don't. It's in different spots, called something different. It's a nightmare to get that kind of thing figured out. The Ubuntu stuff, same every single time. But port forwarding, oh boy.
Right.
No, Nishant. He asked if I just betrayed Cinnamon. I didn't. I'm still on. I'm using Arch for Linux user space and Plasma on it, so I'm getting familiar with Plasma. But Kden Live and Krita are both run under Cinnamon, and very fantastically, by the way. So nope, not yet.
Yeah, when you have 16 computers at the house, it's almost guaranteed one of them is going to be running Linux Mint.
Oh yeah, actually all of them run Linux Mint. Some of them just happen to run other things too. All right. So anyway, that's it. That'll do it. So Joe, where can we find more of you outside of here?
You can catch me on a couple other podcasts. I'm on the Linux Link Tech Show, which you can find at tllts.org. Also on the Linux Lugcast, which is at linuxlugcast.com. We recently started doing tech sci-fi movie style reviews. I think it's pretty interesting. Last time we talked about The Last Starfighter and how it's a good example of some early CGI. You can find me on MeWe. I haven't been on MeWe as much lately. Or you can send me an email directly, jb@mintcast.com.
Pretty cool. And then Bo, not here this time, but undercastnetwork.com, or you can get him at Undercast Collective on YouTube, as well as Crowbar Kernel Panic. Tony Hughes out sick this time, but you can get him at HPR host ID 338, Twitter Tony H1212, th@mintcast.org, or distrohoppersdigest@gmail.com. Josh Hawk is out, but joshontech@mintcast.org, Josh on Tech on Twitter, and pretty much everywhere else. And then Crowbar Colonel Panic as well. Mike getting hit by a hurricane. So, yeah, Mike at mintcast.org, and Grouchy M on Discord.
Taking
As
it
for
in the
me-
face from Henry.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike. As for me, leochavez.org and at Leo Chavez on Twitter, at leo@c.im on Mastodon, linuxuserspace.show, or, buy me a coffee. But before we leave, we want to make sure to acknowledge some of the people who make Mintcast possible. Owen Peary for our audio editing, Josh Lowe for all his work on the website, Hobstar for our logo, InitRD for the animated Discord logo, and Londoner for our time sync. Bytemark Hosting for hosting mintcast.org and our Mumble server, archive.org for hosting our audio files, and of course, the Linux Mint development team for the fine distro we love to talk about every fortnight.
Thanks, Clam.
And Co. Ooh, Nishant, all of it. Honestly, the less, not as sweet, less sweet. If I just end up with a cup of black Folgers coffee, I'll be fine. But my wife was doing some work for a local retailer here, and they gave her a gift card, but they also happen to sell espresso machines at that store. So we used that gift card to buy an espresso machine, and I'm in love with espresso. So I've cut down to 1 double shot a day. So I guess that's like 2 coffees.
That is pretty low.
But that's all I drink anymore. But oh my God, it's so good. This is the crappiest espresso machine you could buy, but it's still amazing.
An espresso machine.
It's still 9 bars of pressure, throwing hot water through coffee beans into a cup, and immediately after you drink it, you give it 1 minute, and you feel your mind start to expand. It's amazing.
I have not, purchased a coffee from somewhere in a really long time.
Mhm.
Yesterday, we're celebrating my daughter's birthday.
Oh yeah.
And they went to Starbucks, so I had the wife get me a small caramel frappuccino with an extra shot of espresso. Yeah, it was quite delicious.
Joe, they don't do small. What's the size? You know the size.
It was pretty small. I don't know what it's called, because when I was actually going to Starbucks, I always got the venti.
Isn't that the small? I
Which
thought
is
that
the
was the
large.
small.
No, the venti's the large.
Well, venti just means 20, so a 20-ounce coffee. So they have a smaller coffee than that?
Yeah. This one was like your venti is usually like that tall, and then this one was like that tall. It was small.
Huh. I wonder what that one's called. Maybe that one's the grande. Because they have like, hold on, Starbucks sizes. I just gotta know because they're stupid. Tall. That's why. It's called a tall. And it's still 12 ounces. That's a lot of coffee.
Yeah, with espresso
Okay.
in it. It's a lot of
Oh,
sugar
they have a short.
too.
Oh, they have a short too. Wait a minute. Oh my God.
It had
So
to be the short.
they have a short, tall, grande, venti, and Trenta. So 20 and 30.
Never got the Trenta.
I mean,
Never got the Trenta.
You really need your coffee in the morning if you're getting a 30-ounce coffee. Like that's a lot of
With
coffee.
6 extra shots of espresso.
Yeah, exactly. Because how are you gonna? 90% of that sugar. So what is that? It's like 6, 8, 12 shots of espresso. That's too much. Like, if you're without coffee for a whole day, your head explodes. Yeah, I give me a short Americano. I'm fine. No sugar, no cream, no nothing. If I have to have something, throw a little cream in there.
What I've been taking to doing is making myself some cold brew coffee with some fresh ground Death Wish coffee grounds, and then I'll make my own. I'll take that whole pot, the whole like pot's worth of coffee into one of my giant mugs, and throw in some protein powder, throw in some almond milk, throw in some sweetener, and mix it up with the hand mixer real good, and then drink a whole pot's worth of Death Wish coffee.
Oh, yeah, I used to have Death Wish, when I was still going to work, and, oh, man, 1 cup, and that was enough.
Yeah,
That
I
was
drained.
enough.
I drained the pot.
That's a lot of caffeine. That's way I get jittery after about cup
And
3 of
honestly,
normal coffee.
it doesn't even like nudge my heart rate.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm like 80 beats per minute the whole time. Sitting down, trying to relax. Pa, 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 pa. Yeah, it's too much.
Well, a lot of times my average resting heart is somewhere in the range between 45 and 60 beats per minute. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at a full rest, I'm at like 65 or
yeah,
so.
if it
Or
bumps my heart rate up between 65 to 75, that's still well within normal.
yeah, and I'm in the low 70s after I've had too much coffee. I mean, it really is, but I mean, if I get to the jittery point where I'm like I've made a huge mistake. Yeah, we're getting close to 80 at that point. It's crazy. Yeah, so no, I mean, Nishant, you're talking about 600 rupees a cup. And if we're talking, I mean, if we're talking look, like
Look,
a
Starbucks is expensive.
a grande with what Joe's talking about, that's like $8. That's true. It's the same. And in my opinion, that's prohibitively expensive.
It
That's too
is.
much money. I need to
It-
spend that on something else,
for-
like I don't know,
look,
food for 3 days.
Look. I'm not that ancient by any means. I know that I'm getting up there in years, but it's not that bad yet. I still remember when you could walk into a gas station, plop 50 cents down, and get a big old cup of coffee.
Yeah. You could still do that for about $1 or 2. It's gone up a little bit, but not
Yeah.
like gas station coffee. I mean, a cup of the stuff that they have in the pots that's been sitting there for an hour, it couldn't be more than $1 or so, right? How much is a banana, Michael?
Like
$10?
$1.50. Not the banana. I don't know what bananas cost, but I'm pretty sure it's $1.50 for a cup of coffee.
They sell banana singles for $0.25. That was have you ever seen Arrested Development?
No.
My wife has me watching it. I think we're on like the 3rd season. And I mean it's a hilarious show, but
I should
that whole
stop
thing
my recording.
is the mother is so out of touch as far as what things cost that a 25-cent banana, right? She's like, what how much could it be? $10, right? I mean, because money means nothing to her. She doesn't know what anything costs. Gas station coffee is 74 rupees. How much is that?
I don't know what it's still a lot more expensive than it used to be, and
It's $1. Okay, no, that makes sense. It's about the same. Because yeah, give or take about $1.
And sometimes you just really need garbage coffee. Life worth living.
I tend to agree because I forget how good espresso tastes because I've had it every day until I go and try and drink a cup of just drip coffee. Even the best beans out of a drip coffee isn't that great. So I taste one of those and I'm like, oh God, thank God, espresso machine. Oh man.
Well, maybe I'll have to get an espresso machine.
I'm real sad. I mean, because we didn't have to pay for it, right? I mean, well, sort of, I guess. I mean, it was a gift card, but I mean, it didn't really cost us anything. So I'm gonna be real sad if this machine ever breaks and I have to actually go out and buy one.
Like a year or two.
No, we've had it for 2 years now, and thing is still going strong. Like it'll choke every now and then. You'll have
and
to.
then tomorrow it dies.
It better,
That's what
Joe.
you get for talking.
Nope, it better not. I'm gonna be real upset if
With
that's
me?
the case. No, I mean sort of because you jinxed it, but I mean no because it's probably
when you
about
go and
time.
turn it on right after the show because you want coffee now that you've been thinking about it.
Yeah, now that I've been talking about it, I kind of want one.
It's gonna be dead.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna ship it to me so I can fix it.
Hey, if you could fix it, man, I'll pay for the shipping and throw you a $20. What do you call it? A $20? Not a $20. I usually say $5. What do you call a 20? A venti. Ha! I'll throw you a venti.
We'll see.
Oh my God. I kill myself, man. That's terrible. All right. Let me see. Nishant, last thing he said was he got a couple of friends on Zorin OS 16. I've always meant to try Zorin OS and I haven't. I really should because it looks nice. A 20-year. Yeah. I'm still gonna go with Venti. Venti is fantastic. I'm gonna throw Joe a Venti if he can fix my broken coffee pot. I'll have to do French press or pour over in the meantime, and it just won't be as good.
Do cold brew.
Cold brew is nice. I don't like cold coffee though. I like the warm up. Even in summer, I like it for some reason. But I like French press because you get to look real haughty, you know? Like you're walking around with this pot and you just keep pouring coffee out of it. It just keeps coming and it keeps getting stronger every cup. Ah, man.
Yeah,
Like,
French press is pretty good.
I
I got a
love
couple of French presses.
that is what I did before espresso, where I wanted to feel fancy and have good coffee at the same
Well, the
time.
whole thing about French press is, you know, it's a whole lot quicker and easier than drip.
Yeah. But you needed an extra machine. You got to have a water boiler and a French press. But the cool thing about it is you get a ton of fertilizer. Those coffee grounds go straight in the garden.
Yeah, the nice thing, I know that work is getting rid of the coffee machines now. I
What?
don't know how a tech company can do. Well, it's not a tech company.
Oh, is it because you're like not supposed to congregate because COVID?
Yeah, COVID
Oh.
protocols, no more coffee pot, blah blah, whatever. But how can you have tech guys without having, you know, coffee?
Look,
But
honestly, what your
before
company should do is buy the little 12-ounce Bodum single French press and give one to everybody.
everybody.
Dude, that would be so cool.
But you know, before you had your coffee maker right there, but it also had this little valve on the side that just dispensed hot water. So I would take my French press in, and then I would just put the grounds in the bottom, and then use that thing to fill it up, and then, you know, wait my 4 minutes and do the push down, and I'm ready to go.
Yep. I like to get it a little bit early. I'll go a little bit less time than that on the first pour of the French press so that I can have that real bright flavor and not too much caffeine so I can slow the ramp because that second and
I
third
think
cup.
you and I have very different opinions on how coffee should be done.
Yeah. I mean, that last cup is stout, man, because it's been sitting in those grounds hot because I got the one that has that junk in the outside to keep it super duper hot in the inside. So, I mean, it is literally brewing the entire time. And man, that last cup is real stout. I can't finish it most of the time because that'll put me in jittery territory.
Are you getting a good amount of tips on that buy me a coffee?
No, I mean, not really. I don't really hawk it very
Okay.
much. But I think a lot of that would come if I actually did YouTube videos and stuff.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I should start doing more YouTube videos. I know I've
Yeah.
only got the 2 up there, right? I think. But I need more cool things to solder instead of just headphones over. Wants to watch that.
Oh, yeah. Well, you might be able to solder my espresso machine one, so look forward to that.
When it breaks here in 5 minutes.
Hey, man. Telling you, don't jinx it. But yes, when it breaks in 5 minutes. I'll have it to you by Monday.
I'll have it back to you in 6 months.
Oh, no. I can't wait that long.
Man, I told you I am so swamped for time.
All right, 2 Ventis. All right, 2 Ventis. I got you.
I don't know if you know what my hourly is.
All right, 3 Ventis. That's as high as I can go. Actually, at 4 Ventis, I can just buy a new one.
Right, you might as well just buy a new one.
Once you add in shipping and everything else, man, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just throw shipping at you, and you can send it to me while you buy yourself a new one.
There you go. All right, Nishan, if you're talking about my design, it's just the 2020 WordPress theme. I think that might be what you're talking about. This website. I assume, right? Because this. But
how much recording did we have? It was a little bit shorter. Well,
It's
yeah,
about
it's
2
under
hours.
2 hours. Yeah, so that's a lot shorter.
Yeah. Oh, I should probably save it before I accidentally break something.
But I don't know if we're gonna get an hour and an hour.
We'll get about 40 minutes maybe out of the first, and then probably about an hour out of the second.
Yeah, so, a couple of short shows.
No, that's good. That's the right length. It'll make for an easy edit.
Oh, is it you and Tony that are editing? Or you and
I mean,
Bo?
honestly, nah, I don't want to put Tony through that. He's not feeling well, so
Okay.
I'll just take it.
Okay.
Oh, no, I literally just typed that into the header. There's nothing special about it.
All right, I'm gonna have to get going.
All right,
I've had everybody trying to be quiet.
Yep, same
with
here.
everything.
Everybody on the live stream. Hey, I forgot to turn lights on. Anyway, everybody on the live stream, thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. If you have any opinions or anything like that about the show, drop them in email, Telegram, Discord, Facebook, those places, whatever. Oh yeah, or Element if you like the whole Matrix thing. So yeah,
What
we'll
was
see
our
y'all again.
concurrency this time?
Oh, I have no idea. I'll get that in a minute once I kill the live stream. So, thanks for coming. Y'all have a good one.